All right, welcome back, True Seeker. Welcome to Gematria School. It's been a long time since we did this, and since it's been a long time since we did it, I'll pretend like we've never done it before. We'll start right from the basics. And for those of you who are new here, I realized what I could do is we have about 10 videos from Gematria School from more than a year ago. It's kind of like a 10-part series. I will go back and I will re-upload those videos. And if you want to take the time, you'll be able to go through those lessons just for additional information. So look for that in the days ahead. But again, what tonight's going to be about is really understanding how to use this knowledge, why it's important, where it came from, so that you can be successful with it and hopefully wake your friends and family up to this, because as far as I'm concerned, all English-speaking people need to learn this knowledge and see the worth of it. Because I have zero doubt that every single day this knowledge is being used to wage an agenda against us, we the people. And for those of you who like books you can go out and get this book right here, Numerology by Faith Javane and Dusty Bunker. The name Faith is spelled just like how you'd expect it, F-A-I-T-H. Her last name, Javane, is J-A-V-A-N-E. Faith Javane. This was one of the first books I began to read when I learned about this knowledge. And I found it in, back then there was a Barnes & Noble bookstore. They had it in there. And what blew my mind when I read this book was the only cipher she talks about is what I always call the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules numerology, which we'll go over. That's the only cipher she uses in this book. She only talks about that cipher, but in the book she mentions that there's over 100 ciphers in use in the English language by different groups of people. And to me that was mind-blowing at the time, because I was thinking, how could there be 100 ciphers? Like, what could those 100 ciphers be? And still to this day, I don't know what all 100 of those ciphers are, but I am aware of more ciphers now than when I first began. And another book, the reason I started a minute late is I was just combing through my bookshelf going, where's my book at? I must have loaned out my Secret Teachings of All Ages book, and I know who I gave it to, so I got to get it back. But again, for another book out there to look up is Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Again, in that book, he introduces Gematria. Again, it's a big, thick book. There's a ton of really interesting information in it. If you're a true seeker and you like knowledge and information, you'll like that book for all sorts of reasons. But on one page in that big book, he talks about Gematria, and he introduces the most two simple ciphers. Simple English Gematria, which is the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, so on. And then the alphabetic order with the rules numerology, which is considered the most pure cipher, known as Pythagorean Gematria. So Manly, M-A-N-L-Y, middle initial P, last name Hall, H-A-L-L. And he has a lot of books, including this book right here, The Secret Destiny of America. And this man has a lot of books. I own a lot of his books. Some are really short. Some books are like a 30-minute read that he's put out. He's got big ones. He's got small ones. This book, The Secret Destiny of America, is really interesting, and I think every American should read this book. He talks about how the United States of America was established by secret societies, Masons, who referred to themselves as the Order of the Quest, and their purpose was to create a one-world democracy. And he doesn't make it sound so bad. He makes it sound like their one-world democracy was supposed to be based in, knowledge and philosophy and justice. And that's why, sometimes I maintain that, maybe once upon a time these people did have the best of intentions and they were infiltrated and this got all screwed up and it is what it is now. But we also know how the cabal always likes to paint a rosy picture of what they're doing and making it seem like their way's in the right. So, that's still up for debate, but we'll talk about that name, the Order of the Quest. And I wasn't able to really appreciate that name, the Order of the Quest, until I learned reverse gematria, which we'll get to. And then, of course, another book worth picking up is the Sefer Yetzirah, or also the Book of Formation. Again, this is one of the key texts of Kabbalah. And again, the book begins. You can just open up page 1. Let me just read from page 1. Here we are. The Book of Formation, chapter 1. And this is not a thick book at all, small book. But it just begins. In 32 mysterious paths of wisdom did the Lord write, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the living Elohim, and King of the universe, the almighty, merciful, and gracious God. He is great and exalted and eternally dwelling in the height. His name is holy. He is exalted and holy. He created his universe by 3 forms of expression: numbers, letters, and words. So that is the opening paragraph of the book. The paragraphs are even numbered in the Book of Formation. That is paragraph 1. But numbers, letters, and words, which of course is Gematria, which is what we're learning about tonight. So, again, it can be helpful to have some books on hand if you're trying to wake up your friends and family. This book, Numerology and the Divine Triangle by Faith Javane and Dusty Bunker. I always love that co-writer's name, Dusty Bunker, because that's kind of like where this knowledge is, right? Like in a forgotten military base or something. But I'm trying to see what the year this book was. This book came out in 1979. So this book has been on this earth for over 40 years now. And, Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages is much older than that. So it's not like it's new knowledge. It's not like it's new Gematria. Some of you might have found those Rationale wiki pages that were written about me. There's one now with just my name. Before there was one called New Gematria, where they said I was teaching this new Gematria, this brand new made-up thing. They make it seem like it's my creation, which of course it's not. I was looking once upon a time for the truth about numbers. I knew there was something to numbers. I always saw the number 47 in the news, just like how the other day we uncovered that story. I'll just show you the New Jersey house party story. This just reminds me of the type of story that I saw so often over the years. Let me see if I type in New Jersey party, if it pulls it up here. Let me make sure I'm showing you guys the right thing on the screen. Okay, we're good. Yeah, but just stories like this. I mean, just over the years, I just saw so many things like this. A story of a 47-year-old man arrested for having 47 people in his apartment. And for years, I just stared at this number. I mean, for years, truly, like more than 10 years. And I thought, why does 47 always show up in news stories? What is it about this number? And, it's funny. It took me several years, even into this research, to realize that news equals 47. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, news equals 47. But of course, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with my redundancy in teaching about 47. But again, I just knew there must be something more about numbers the way the news uses them. Just like the story this morning about the woman Michelle Money. They tell you that this woman who won season 15 of The Bachelor, they mentioned that in the article. Now today, her daughter, who's 15 years old, is in the ICU because she had this terrible accident. And then they also throw another 15 in the story. They mention that, she became pregnant at 15. And you learn Gematria and you realize things like ICU equals 15. But it was for years just looking at the redundancy of numbers in news stories for me that made me go, something is going on here with these numbers. There's a reason they keep putting these numbers in stories. There's a reason they insert numbers that don't need to be there. Sometimes years ago, they gave you this article about LeBron James's square footage of his house, and whatever the square footage was, they used that exact same number in like the exact same way with something else about him. And I had to go back and dig up that story, but it's like, okay, they're obviously trying to tell you something about that number to give you the square footage of his house and then use it in another way. So for years, I was just on this quest. What is it about numbers? And then I found it, Gematria. And I didn't find a lot about it, but I just got a clue. And if you read Manly P. Hall's book, again, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, he just gives you these 2 ciphers. He encourages you to go out and decode using the ciphers. But he especially encourages you to use the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology and suggests there's a lot to find. Well, he was absolutely right, and I'm grateful he wrote that book, because had he not, maybe he never would have figured out any of this. So, with that said, let's talk about Gematria, and I'm going to just break this down. Gematrinator.com, we're going to use this website. And the reason we're going to use this website is I still think it is the best calculator on the web for decoding. It's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. Unfortunately, in recent days, Gematria has become a lot more popular because of the death of Kobe Bryant, and I think also because of what's going on with coronavirus. So this website's getting a ton more traffic, and it is crashing a lot. Derek, who built the website, I'm grateful for. Him and I aren't on the best of terms right now. I'm thinking about reaching out to him and asking if he'll accept a donation from me to upgrade the hosting expenses so the website doesn't crash so much, because I know that that's got to be a problem for a lot of people right now. The website is crashing a lot. I imagine tonight as we try to use the website, we'll run into a few glitches. But despite the glitches and the crashing, it's still the best website for decoding right now. And I'd say the next best website for decoding is my website. If you're ever having too much trouble with his, if it's crashing, come to gematriaeffect.news, go to calculator. It sets you up with the same 4 base ciphers. I'm going to show you one distinction from his calculator and mine right now. His used to be set up the exact same way, but he changed something. We'll cover that in a moment. But again, these calculators are pretty much the same. But we'll stick with Gematrinator just because I kind of like the color coding. It can help people differentiate between the ciphers when they're learning. So anyway, when you come to his website, let me start it over. When you come to his website, it will always load up these 4 base ciphers. And if you want to change the ciphers, you can just click on the Ciphers tab, which you should see on the screen. And I'm going to uncheck boxes that are checked. I'm going to get rid of the full reduction, which is also known as Pythagorean Gematria. I'm going to go down to the reverse and get rid of reverse ordinal and reverse full reduction. And again, we're just going to start with the alphabetic order. And again, this is a way to introduce somebody to Gematria. Remember, the Book of Formation gives us this idea about Gematria, that God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. And it's a Jewish practice. And if you look into Judaism, it's a common practice to write the name God, G-D. Like if you just do a web search and say, why do Jews write, there it even came up. Why do some Jews write G-D instead of God? Again, I'll just read a little bit about this right here. So this is going to get to the point I'm going to make about simple English Gematria. Well, we don't want that ad. Writing G-D instead of God is a fairly recent custom in America. Many believe this to be a sign of respect, and the custom comes from an interpretation of the commandment in Deuteronomy 12:3-4 regarding the destruction of pagan altars. According to the medieval commentator Rashi, we should not erase or destroy God's name and should avoid writing it. So it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect to leave out the middle letter. But the thing about G and D is they are the letters 7. G is the 7th letter using the alphabetic order, and D is the 4th. And remember, Gematria is this language of God. And in Kabbalah, again, Kabbalah, don't think that Kabbalah is a bad thing, because it's not supposed to be a bad thing. There's a good half and there's a dark half. The good half is supposed to be about understanding the way God operates, understanding our purpose within God's kingdom, understanding spirituality, how to ascend spirituality, how to be more in connection with the Creator. And I'm not advocating for Kabbalah either. I'm just saying that this is what it's supposed to be about. But the Qlippoth, which is the dark half, it's not entirely evil either, but it is the evil half. Part of it is about understanding the evil side of the world, the dark nature of the world, but then there's also a part of it that's about learning how to spellcast for the purpose of essentially hurting others. And no doubt what we are decoding, these negative headlines, this propaganda, these lies, this deceit, these murder rituals, this is the dark half. But anyway, Gematria, just with the alphabetic order, equals 74. And remember, on Gematria.com, if you just scroll down the page, you get the cipher. You get the cipher so you can see what each letter is. And I highly encourage people to learn the alphabetic order and what each letter is and have it memorized in your head. If you practice this, you'll probably surprise yourself with how quickly you can memorize the alphabetic order and remember which letter is which number. And a good way to do this is to get out pen and paper and just write it down. Again, I'll remind people, when I first began this research, I didn't know of any Gematria calculators online. I did everything with pen and paper and a notebook, and I just kept notes. And when I found, words that had relationships, because again, that's part of what Gematria is about. Taking words that have a relationship that's already understood. Like in a moment, again, I'll revisit how Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, they're all 74 with the alphabetic order. And obviously, all of those words have a very clear relationship. That's what Gematria is really about, putting words that have a relationship together and also the same numerical value. And it's more powerful when the relationship is in the same cipher. So, coming back, the alphabetic order, what's known as Simple English Gematria. That is the true name of using this cipher, the alphabetic order. On Derek's calculator, he called it English ordinal because ordinal just means using the order of the alphabet. I mean, that's a fair name, but the real name is Simple English Gematria. Simple is 74, English is 74, Gematria is 74. And you'll notice I do alternate between how I say the word. For years, I just called it Gematria, and for years, people said, Zach, it's pronounced Gematria. And then I'll listen to another rabbi speak, and he'll say Gematria. So, again, it's not a very well-known word. The exact correct pronunciation, I'm still to this date not entirely sure what the exact way to say this word is. I hear different people say it different ways. So, Gematria, Gematria, I think it's all fair. It's more important to know what this is about and why it's in use. So, again, Simple English Gematria. For some reason, I still like to say it that way the best. It's all 74. And again, we know that this practice is important to Masonry. Albert Pike, the Freemason, the only Confederate War General with a statue in his honor in Washington, D.C., known as the Masonic City. Albert Pike, one of the most well-known Freemasons in the history of North America and the United States. He has that book in D.C., Morals and Dogma. And of course, Morals and Dogma sums to 137 with the alphabetic order, like Washington, D.C., the 33rd prime. In Hebrew, Cabala sums to 137. But anyway, in his book, Morals and Dogma, he pays tribute to Cabala and says that's what Freemasonry is based in. Freemasonry owes all thanks to Cabala. So, again, for anyone who questions you on any of these things, you have to know the documentation to show them where they can look up and verify these things so that they can trace the relationships. But the word Masonic itself is 74. For any of you who have Netflix, you can go to that TV show, America's Book of Secrets. Some of the episodes seem to be a little bit silly. The second episode is about the history of Freemasonry in America. And right near the beginning of that documentary, they talk about how George Washington had 74 generals, and 33 of them were Masons, and he was the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. And in a minute, we'll get to the cipher, which reveals George Washington equals 74. But anyway, Masonry. The other thing about Masonry, besides being based in Kabbalah, is to be a Mason, you have to believe in God. And again, God, G-D, 7-4. Masonry, Masonic 74. Clear parallels. And again, it's occult knowledge. This knowledge is occult. That means hidden. A lot of people hear the word occult and they think it means bad right away. It's not what it means. It just means hidden knowledge. And a lot of times, as we know, those of us who are awake, the information that's hidden in this world, it's hidden right in plain sight. It's hidden right in front of our face. It's put there and expected for us not to see it. And think about how simple this knowledge is. The alphabetic order, adding up letters as numbers. I mean, I've said it before. Some people they think it's an insult when I say it. I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just saying you could teach this to a second grader. A second grader could truly learn this. Most second graders know how to read and write and have basic arithmetic skills. Some children have those skills before they're even in kindergarten. Depending on how fast their brain develops, depending on what their parents taught them, you could theoretically teach this to a child who's maybe 4 years old. But definitely by second grade, 7-year-old, they'd pick this right up. 6, 7 years old. So, again, we're just building our list right now. Simple, English, Gematria, it's all 74. Masonic, 74. Occult, 74. And, again, this is Jewish knowledge. Jewish, 74. When I first saw this, I was like, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I remember the first times I was uncovering things, my mind was just being blown. When I saw that, because when I just got on this roll with 74, just the first night that I began decoding, some of the first words I decoded were Gematria in English, and I was like, wow, look at that. And, I think I compiled this same list that I'm showing you on the first night of doing this research, and my mind was just blown. And I still remember sharing it with my Facebook friends, and I just got nothing but ridicule, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna continue to work quietly in my journal. I don't know why I'm being ridiculed for this. I find it very interesting. But when I saw a holiday was 74, I was like, wow, that's just like our nation's birthday. And I remember when I first began, again, I read Manly P. Hall's, his passage from his book, and these are the 2 ciphers that he introduced. And, this one that's the blue cipher, which is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, that's where Independence Day is 74. And remember, the only difference between these ciphers is just you're incorporating numerology. So, again, you get your chart down here, and you see what the difference is. All letters are a single-digit number. So A through I are still 1 through 9, where it changes at J, the 10th letter. And this cipher, and by the way, if you want to change the chart, you just drag your cursor on Gematrinator over the cipher, and it'll change the chart. So I'm just, my cursor last went over the green. Now I'm going to put it over the blue. So that's how you can change your charts down there. Just whatever you highlight last. And if you click on it, it'll permanently change the chart until you click on the next one. So, but again, J's the 10th letter, but in numerology, the numerology of 10 is 1 plus 0 is 1. K, the 11th letter, is 1 plus 1 is 2. L, the 12th letter, is 1 plus 2 is 3. So on. Up to Z, the 26th letter, the numerology of 26 is 2 plus 6 is 8. And a mathematical check is these ciphers, it doesn't matter what the word is, they'll always break down to the same numerology value. So like Independence Day with the alphabetic order is 128. 1 plus 2 plus 8 is 11. If you wanted to take it further, 11 has numerology of 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. 74 is 7 plus 4 is 11. So back in the day when I did everything by hand, I would always make sure that when I decoded in both ciphers, that when I did the numerology of the words, they compressed to the same digit. Now, just something to, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but understand, both of these words break down to 11. 11 will break down to 2, right? I know automatically, without even decoding, that the reverse ciphers, so the reverse alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, I know automatically that whatever those values are, they're going to break down to 7, because this is 2. You'll notice that the forward cipher and the reverse cipher, the numerology breakdown, the sum of the reverse and the forwards will always equal 9. So because this is 2, it's 2 plus x, like if you were back in your math school. 2 plus x is going to equal 9. Well, x has to be 7. So the reverse value is going to be 7. And here, I'll just plug in the reverse cipher so you can just see that it's true. It's true for every single cipher. So 277 in the reverse for Independence Day. 2 plus 7 is 16. Numerology is about breaking something down to a single digit unless it breaks down to 11 or 22 along the way, because 11's the master number and 22's the master builder number. You can break them down further, but you don't have to. But since this is 2 plus 7 is 16, 16 becomes 1 plus 6 is 7. 70 is obviously 7 plus 0 is 7. But every single word is like that. And you can just prove that by just using single digit letters too. A is the first letter. So 1, you know the other side in reverse, it's going to have to be plus 8 to get to 9. In reverse, A is 26, which has a numerology of 8. B, 2, in reverse it's 25, which is 7. 2 plus 7, 9. C, the third letter, in reverse it's the 24th letter, which has a numerology of 6. 3 plus 6 is 9, and so on. And in case you haven't noticed, if a word has 9, a value of 9 in any cipher, it's going to be 9 in every single cipher. In every single cipher, it's going to be 9. And that means you're adding 9 plus 9, which is 18, from the forwards and backwards. And the numerology of 18 is 9. It always comes back to 9. And what's considered the most pure cipher, Pythagorean Gematria, Pythagoras, who the Masons are absolutely fascinated with, just like all the Greek mathematicians, which is really knowledge that came from ancient Egypt. It's another story. But Pythagoras said that 9 was God, because there was no number that was more magical than 9. And again, the things to know about 9 with regards to math, you have that special thing with your fingers. If you put your fingers up in front of you like this, you put your hands so your palms are facing at you, you have the times 9 thing on your hands. So the way it works is, like if you were doing 9 times 1, you would put down your thumb. Your thumb represents 1, and you have 9 fingers up in a row. So 1 times 9 is 9, obviously. If you put your thumb back up and close your pointer finger on your left hand, this represents times 2. 9 times 2. So what do you have? You have 1 digit that's your thumb, and then you have 8 more numbers, or 8 more fingers. So 1 and 8, like 18. And again, we're talking about 9 times 2. So 2 times 9 is 18. If you put down your middle finger on your left hand, this represents 9 times 3. So what do you have? You have 2 fingers here, and then you have 7 fingers left up, like 2 and 7, 27. 3 times 9 is 27. So on. It's true for each finger. You put down this finger times 4. 9 times 4 is 36. So that's one of the magical things about 9. Another is that any number that you add 9 to, so let's just say, for example, 1. 1 has a numerology of 1. If you add 9 more, 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 has a numerology of 1. It's true for any number. Any number you add 9 to, the numerology doesn't change. There's no other number that's true of. But if you add plus 9 to any number, the numerology does not change. It stays the exact same. So that's another quality of 9. And then the other one is any number multiplied times 9 takes on a numerology of 9. Doesn't matter what number it is. If you multiply it by 9, its numerology, meaning when you break it down to a single digit, will become 9. That's not true of any other number. So that was what Pythagoras noticed, and what Pythagoras probably learned from a mathematician down in Egypt. And that's why it's considered such a special number. And, you know, it also relates to us as human beings. We develop in our mother's womb for 9 months. So 9, very special number. So, to come back, for years, when I taught Gematria, all I knew was the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And when Derek came along, he heard me constantly talking about this book, because I used to always bring this up. Because so often my biggest criticism from people who would leave comments when I started is they'd say, you know, this is interesting, but you're using 2 ciphers, so maybe it just makes it so everything can equate to the number you're looking for, which obviously wasn't true, but it was just such a common criticism. I would usually respond to those things, and I'd say, you know, there's this book out here, Numerology, The Divine Triangle by Faith Javane. She teaches what's full reduction on this cipher, Pythagorean Gematria. That's all she teaches in her book. But then she tells the reader that there's over 100 ciphers in use by different people in this world. And I have no doubt that that's true. But again, I don't encourage people to start using a bunch of ciphers to try to make their argument, because I know that a lot of amateur decoders will come on here and they'll click this all ciphers button, and then they'll type in a word, and then they'll make this, you know, they'll just start taking Because when you're using this many ciphers on the screen, I mean, you really can turn any subject into any conspiracy or any argument. This is overkill. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, you don't even need reverse gematria to be persuasive with this work. You know, I was very persuasive with this. I was very successful with this. I helped a lot of people win a lot of money at rigged sports just knowing these two ciphers. Learning reverse has just, again, the way I always explain it, it's like, if you see with one eye, you see fine. I mean, you don't really need two eyes. You can still see most things if you have one eye. But when you have two eyes, you see more clearly. And to me, that's what reverse gematria is. It's like that extra vision of your second eye. The reason I knew right away that reverse was relevant was just because I went back and looked at things I'd been researching for so long. And I saw how the reverse ciphers fit in right away. Before I knew reverse, I always called, and again, just to be clear about these two ciphers, reverse ordinal is just running the alphabetic order in reverse. Z is 1, back to A is 26. Just in reverse. And then the last cipher is the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So, for example, before I knew these ciphers, I just saw how many rituals went on in Washington, D.C. with the number 47. Just so many. And again, remember, none of my understanding of any of this started with decoding words into numbers. It was more at looking at number patterns that were just included in news stories. Number patterns such as on September 11th. Again, you know, Flight 77 hits the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian. And they report that it took off at 8:20 and crashed at 9:37, expecting you not to do the math. That's 77 minutes later. So, again, when I first started, Manly P. Hall, you know, the most time I spent with the ciphers was, you know, right here. This cipher right here. Pythagorean gematria on this calculator, full reduction. And, you know, I had to go back and look at that, and I saw, oh my goodness, when you write out September 11th, it equals 77. And I saw that when you wrote out World Trade Center, even though it happened at the Pentagon, you know, World Trade Center, Pentagon, they were the rituals that day. Don't forget that Pentagon construction began on September 11th. But for both of those things to equal 77, in light of the massive 77 ritual that was, to me, it was just, there was no way that could be a coincidence. And if you research the history of Washington, D.C. being on the 77th meridian, you'll find that they lobbied for that. They wanted it to be on the 77th meridian. And for many years, that was perplexing to me. I was like, well, I wonder why they wanted 77. Like, what exactly does that number mean? 7's divine, but what's it have to do with, you know, Washington, D.C. or the nation's capital? I didn't know for a long time. But when I found reverse gematria, just running the alphabetic order in reverse and using the rules of numerology, it started to make sense real fast. United States is 77. Washington, D.C. is the Masonic City, named after the most powerful secret society in the world. Secret Society 77. You know, those were some big ones. Obviously, this code has a lot to do with Judaism as well. Judaism 77. And Zionist is 77. And obviously, those terms relate to September 11th. We all know about who was arrested in New Jersey for dancing around and saying they were there to document the attacks. Judaism 77, Zionist, when you run it in reverse 77. 9/11 happened on a date with 41 numerology. Al-Qaeda's 41, Saudi Arabia 41. Anyway, it was just things like this. But coming back to 47, again, Washington, D.C., the cornerstone for Washington, D.C., laid by George Washington. The date of this, and again, these are dates to know, like when you're talking to people, September 18th, 1793. That's the date the cornerstone was laid for Washington, D.C. And if you doubt that, you're welcome to look it up, but I promise you that's the date, September 18th, 1793. That was a date with a life lesson number of 47. And again, the way the life lesson number method works is where you add the day plus the month whole. So September 18th is 9 plus 18 is 27. But then what you do with the year is you just add it digit by digit. So 1 plus 7 plus 9 plus 3 for 1793, which is plus 20 more. So you're adding 27 plus 20, which is 47. And again, a lot of people will say like, well, what's the difference between just, adding it all digit for digit and the life lesson number? Again, you can read numerology books. If you still have a bookstore in your area, which I know are becoming harder and harder to come by, these methods are introduced in books, and the difference in the methods are supposed to tell you different attributes about that day and what it means to your life, because usually that's how people are looking at numerology. To me, I don't care so much about that. I just care that these are the paths that numerologists use to calculate the date value. And of course, you will always break it down further as well. So 47 would become 4 plus 7 is 11, the master number, which is obviously part of the significance of 47. But again, 47, though the cornerstone for Washington, D.C. was laid on that date. And remember, the Freemasonry, their symbol is the compass in the square. And let me just put that symbol up on the screen before I go any further. Compass and square, let me see. Yeah, this guy right here. So this is the symbol of the Freemasons. If your eyes are open, you'll often see it on people's license plate or bumper sticker identifying that they're Masons. And remember, not all Masons are bad people. A gentleman who just came and protested with us, or maybe a better term is awareness campaign. A gentleman who came out and, helped raise awareness about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation when we were out there on that cold, wet Friday the 13th. I thought I'd timed it well because the weather was good the days in advance, and then it just got cold and nasty that day. But anyway, a lot of people came and they stood out there all day and they shivered, but they helped get the word out. He came out and he had told me that in recent years, following me, it made him interested in Freemasonry, so he actually joined a lodge 3 years ago, and he's gotten his first 3 degrees. And again, he's just a truth seeker and a knowledge seeker. Very nice gentleman, very well-spoken man, a musician. And, he's not a bad guy, but he just wanted to join Freemasonry because, he said, because I sparked his curiosity in it. And no, I'm not a Mason. I've never even been in a Masonic lodge. I've just always been fascinated with what's going on in this nation and secret societies and the secret history and speeches like JFK's. So, I just began looking into things and I realized, oh, Freemasonry, a lot of this makes sense. Okay. But anyway. Just want to remind people that not all Masons are bad, so don't go out and, give Masons a bad time. Most of them don't have a clue about any of this because the knowledge we're talking about, you don't learn this stuff until you're up at the very tippy top anyway. These low-level Masons, these master Masons that just got their first 3 degrees, they don't know anything about this. They know about Solomon's Temple and tracing boards in the Old Testament and secret hand grips and secret words in the lodge, greetings, but they don't know about this number stuff. This is the people up at the top. So we're working with knowledge that we're not supposed to know. But anyway. Oh, I didn't mean to take that off the screen. My fault. I needed to make a point about this compass. So when it comes out of the Scottish Rite of France, remember France with the alphabetic order, our most simple cipher. France is 47. And they set their compass at 47 degrees in tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is exactly what's shown on the cover of this book. I suspect that the person who wrote this book is a Mason. She's probably, since it's a woman, she's probably Order of the Eastern Star, maybe Dusty Bunker's a Mason. But that right there on the screen, if that's big enough, is that is the 47th problem of Euclid, which is also known as the Pythagorean theorem, like you learned about in geometry class. But the Scottish Rite sets their compass at 47 degrees. The other 2 common variations of the degree on the compass are 45 degrees and 60 degrees. And why would they set it at 45 degrees? It actually makes a ton of sense. Geometry in the most pure cipher is 45. You see how geometry is also 108? So is Euclid. And again, 47th problem of Euclid, the Greek mathematician, the geometer. But anyhow, another common setting for the compass is 45 degrees. What is the compass? Instruments of geometry around a capital G. Gematria means geometry in language. The plural of gematria, the word is oh my goodness, I haven't spelled it in so long. No, that's not right. What is wrong with me right now? I haven't spelled this word in so long I can't even think right now. Hold on, is this it? That's it. There's the word. So the plural of the plural of gematria is gematrio, spelled like that. And what that is like if a word has multiple overlap in ciphers. So notice that word in geometry, they have multiple overlap with the word geometry. 108:45. So they have gematrio or gematrio in common. And again, common variation of the compass, it can be set at 45 degrees. Another variation they set it at is 60 degrees. And my theory on why they set it at 60 degrees is because order with the alphabetic order is 60. And that's essentially what their belief is in Kabbalah, is that God is the master geometer, the master mathematician of the world. And this is God's order. He does everything mathematically. Numbers, letters, words, repeating mathematical patterns, Fibonacci sequence, this type of thing. So, again, when you learn gematria, it starts to make sense. And remember, 47 degrees in tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid. In the most pure cipher, foundations 47. The 47th problem of Euclid is relevant to setting up a perfectly square foundation for a structure. And with regards to the cornerstone being laid for Washington, D.C. on a date with 47 numerology, that should make a lot of sense. And the cornerstone for the Washington Monument was laid on a different date, but it was laid on July 4th, a date that the majority of the world writes 4-7, like 47. So again, remember, Independence Day is 74. In the U.S., we do things backwards. We write the date 7-4, whereas the majority of the world writes the date 4-7. But you can see how both ways it makes a ton of sense. And again, this 47, it is such a big number in D.C. So for years, I looked at things like how president was 47, and I just saw so many rituals with 47. The word government, when I learned the reverse, I was like, wow, government's 47. And, you know, White House is 47. In the reverse, again, you have to have the reverse to see it. Republican is 47. Democrat is 47 in the reverse. So just when I saw the reverse and just saw how all this fit together, I was like, there's no way this is an accident. All the 47 rituals I've been documenting with DC, just the way all this comes together. I'd seen plenty of 47 rituals with Democrats, but for years, you have to realize I didn't know the reverse. So I was just like, well, I guess they're still in DC. They're still in this land of masonry and everything. But then when I saw the reverse, I was like, wow, it's 47 in reverse. But again, like Whig. The word Whig is in the Whig Party, which gave birth to the Republican Party. This was something I caught on to early. Whig 47 with the alphabetic order. They became the Republican Party 47. And that was with Abraham Lincoln. And, you know, remember when you were probably back in middle school and you had to recite 407 years ago, the Lincoln speech, the address? You realize, you're like, okay, the reason he didn't say 87 years ago, which is what 407 years ago, is because this is why he said 407 years ago. This is, you know, their symbolic language. This number is so much to them. And so again, it was just things like that. And oh, by the way, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, the letters D, C, or 47, I mean, there's just no way it's an accident. So I saw that at first when I first learned reverse. And in case you don't know, when Derek first came along, again, Derek was out looking for ciphers. And he found a bunch of different ciphers. And he said, you know, Aleister Crowley, who's into this, he's talking about how you should do everything in reverse. Let me put in some reverse ciphers. I said, yeah, try that out. Because when Derek first set up the calculator, he just had it so that these two ciphers loaded, the ones I talked about all the time. But I started to experiment right away, and I was like, oh my goodness, this reverse is definitely the other half. It's almost as relevant as forwards. So I asked Derek once upon a time to set the calculator up just like this, and it's been this way ever since. And again, to me, these 4 ciphers are the best ciphers to use to study this knowledge, to apply it. Because again, to me, it's totally fair to look through this lens of these 4 ciphers. To me, rather than even calling them 4 different ciphers, the way I really see them is they're 4 parts of one whole system. That's the way it looks to me. And remember, things like this in recent times. I'm just going to type in the word gavel, and I'm going to type in the word judge. Again, gavel and judge are the exact same in all 4 base ciphers, right? 47 with the alphabetic order, 20 with the alphabetic order and rules numerology, 88 with the reverse alphabetic order and rules numerology, 25 with the reverse alphabetic order and rules numerology. Remember, Gematria is more than just, pulling numbers out of words. It's seeing how these numbers are used in repetitive patterns. So go back to the first Supreme Court justice that Trump put in office. It was Neil McGill Gorsuch. And let me just pull this up here, just in case you forgot. It was April 7th, 2017. He replaced Antonin Scalia. He took the oath April 10th. Hold on. Wait a minute. Did Wikipedia get edited? April 10th was not the date. This is the thing about Wikipedia that you have to be careful with, because they're always switching stuff up. Hold on. Let me just do it this way. Neil Gorsuch, watch this. April 7th, 2017. Okay, so this is the date that he was confirmed by the Senate. Maybe he did take the oath April 10th. That's possible, but the day that he officially became a Supreme Court justice was when he passed the Senate on April 7th, 4/7. Here we go. Okay, so he passed the Senate on this date, 4/7, and this is Trump's first Supreme Court justice. And the thing about April 7th is it is the 97th day of the year too, right? 97th, the word supreme with the alphabetic order is 97. But to come back to judge, you see the 88 and the 25 and the 47? This is Trump's first judge passing the Senate. Trump has the 88, 47, 25, and then his full name, Neil McGill Gorsuch, his name is 88 as well in the most pure cipher, like Judge's 88, right? It's also 187, and remember what 187 is. Washington, D.C. is 187 with the reverse alphabetic order. George Washington is 187. Don't forget the President George W. Bush is born on July 6th, the 187th day of the year. What's etched on the House of the Temple, the Scottish Rite headquarters in D.C., is ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Rite means ritual. That's what it's all about, all these rituals by the numbers. But ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, 187. Washington, D.C. used to be the Catholic colony, policed by the Jesuits, whose real name is the Society of Jesus, 187. Remember, Donald Trump had his GOP convention begin on the date July 18th, 18/7, like 187, which was exactly a span of 187 days before Inauguration Day. And if you measure from his birthday, which is June 14th, the flag's birthday, to Pope Francis's birthday, December 17th, the first publicly Jesuit pope, their birthdays are a span of 187 days apart. 187. And then, of course, Trump visited Pope Francis at the Vatican on May 24th, which is the 144th day of the year, and Jesuit Orders 144. Again, you just learn these simple ciphers. You can really follow the rituals and what's going on in the significance of the numbers. So, just since we're on the topic, Supreme Court justices and really understanding the system of the ciphers, remember Brett Kavanaugh. He went through that process. He had the woman Christine Blasey Ford testify against him, and there's a whole lot to that too. But They waited to confirm Kavanaugh. Here, let me just type in here. Brett Kavanaugh. October 6th. It was 2018. So Kavanaugh was sworn in on October 6th. Senate votes to confirm Kavanaugh. So, again, it was the Senate voting on this day. And they waited until the weekend to do this. They could have done it the day before, which was a Friday, but I'm pretty sure it was a Friday. But they definitely did it. Here, let me see. October 6th, I think it was Saturday. October 6th, 2018, day of the week. Yeah, Saturday. So they could have done this on Friday because, like, they'd wrapped up their process before. They had Friday open, but they waited to do it until Saturday. And I understood what they were doing right away because I'd been talking about this in advance. I'd been talking about how in history, Anita Hill came out against Clarence Thomas, a Supreme Court justice, on October 6th, the day leaving 86 days left in the year, accusing Clarence Thomas of sexual assault. And the reason that mattered is, again, October 6th leaves 86 days left in the year, right? Sexual assault is 86 using this reverse reduction cipher. The name Thomas is 86 with the reverse alphabetic order. The name Kavanaugh is 86 with the alphabetic order. And Anita Hill is 86 with the alphabetic order. So think about it. 2 Supreme Court justices, Brett Kavanaugh being accused of sexual assault. They wait to confirm him on the exact same day in history that Anita Hill came out against Clarence Thomas. And if I can pull this up real quick, there was a story last year, 2019. Anita Hill was in the headline. Something about Joe Biden. But as soon as I saw the story, I was just like, watch this. Because just so often when you do this research, if you just know a number that just recurs with something, you just get the feeling before you even look it up. I was just like, just watch. This is going to be 86 days from her birthday. And let me see if I can find it here. It was. Is this the right one? No, this is another sexual assault 86 story. But let me see if I can just pull this up. Because, again, these are all things you can show your friends and family if you're trying to wake them up. And if they just look at this kind of stuff and just their eyes glaze over, you just know you're talking to the right person. But remember, there are people out there who will get this. And they'll realize the undeniable patterns. I have so many posts here on my blog, I guess, with Anita Hill's name in it. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Anita Hill is ready to hold Joe Biden accountable. So this story came out October 24th, 2019, and it's funny they have a different woman up here on the story too with Katie Hill. See, live updates. Anita Hill, I'm ready to hold Joe Biden accountable, and then top center, Katie Hill, another hill, the city on the hill. But Anita Hill's birthday is July 30th. This story came out October 24th, 86 days after her birthday. And again, we'd already covered, back in more than a year earlier, the massive 86 ritual with the swearing in of Kavanaugh. And again, if you have family that's interested in government and, judges and stuff, I happen to live across the street from a judge right now. I was sharing all this with him. I think his mind was kind of blown, but he didn't know what to say. But one other thing I could tell you about, just going back to Brett Kavanaugh, Mr. 88, remember, or not Brett Kavanaugh, Neil McGill Gorsuch, 88, like Judge, like Gavel, like Trump. From the day that Antonin Scalia died to the day that Gorsuch was confirmed, it was either 420 days later or a span of 420 days. And if you write out 420 with the most pure cipher, it's also 88. Just like Neil McGill Gorsuch is 88 in that cipher. So from Antonin Scalia's death to him being replaced, 420 days. And again, just remember how ridiculous the whole thing was. The Democrats, Obama was in office, and, they couldn't get somebody in there to replace. That's just unheard of. It doesn't even make any sense. I mean, that's one of the main reasons, like, political parties really want their party to be in office, for the chance to appoint a Supreme Court justice, because they have such long appointments. That's one of the biggest things, you listen to political talk radio. We got to get our guy in there so we get those conservative judges or those liberal judges. How's a political party going to miss the opportunity of putting in a justice? Especially when Antonin Scalia is one of the most conservative justices on the bench. I mean, that would be a big opportunity for, you know, the liberal Democrats to shift the way of the court, but then they don't seize the moment. This stuff's just ridiculous, right? It's all theater, but then you realize, you know, this is what they're doing. This is why it took that long to replace him. So, again, I'm just trying to show you right now, like, relevance of ciphers and how you can definitely see that forwards and backwards is the system. And again, a good reference point on that is Aleister Crowley, the occultist, who wrote several books about Gematria, because he always spoke about the importance of doing things forwards and backwards. So it would only make sense that these occult secret societies, which no doubt he learned from himself, this is how they're operating. For one more thing about Neil Gorsuch, just Neil Gorsuch is 58 and 59, like Freemasonry's 58 and 59. And remember, Donald Trump announced he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower. He was the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election. For the inauguration day, he hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray. And the most pure cipher. Again, the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Secret Society's 58. Solomon's Temple is 58. That's where all the secrets are of Freemasonry. The Rosicrucian Order. They were the protectors of Solomon's Temple. Rosicrucians 58. They gave birth to the Freemasonry Order. Freemasonry is 58. So, again, you can understand the significance of this number. 58 applies to things such as the Tetragrammaton, which is the four-letter name of God. And, you know, God is all things. Time is another very important concept. Remember, 58, it applies to things such as the word Gregorian. We're on the Gregorian calendar system. The word calendar itself is 58. Zodiac is 58. Solar cycle is 58. So, again, this number has a lot of meaning. And what 58 breaks down to in numerology is 5 plus 8 is 13, and 13 is 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 represents foundation in numerology. The fourth book of the Bible is Numbers. Numbers, the foundation. God made the world with numbers, letters, and words. Notice numbers are the first thing in that order. Some people criticize the title of my book. They say, why did you make it letters and numbers instead of numbers and letters, since that's the order? And sometimes I think that's a fair criticism. I actually debated on calling it numbers and letters. To me, I like saying letters and numbers for some reason. It just rolls off the tongue better to me. And I was also just thinking alphabetically. L comes before N, but anyway, it's not a big deal. So, again, just relevance of these numbers. And again, Tetragrammaton breaks down to, or equals 58 in the most pure cipher, which breaks down to 4, just like it's the four-letter name of God. So, we've covered the ciphers. Again, I highly suggest that you just work within these 4 ciphers. If you want to step outside of these 4 ciphers, the next cipher to incorporate is Jewish Gematria, which also has a lot of relevance. I would argue that it's the most important cipher outside of the base ciphers. There are other ciphers that are absolutely relevant, but again, you don't really need to bring a lot of ciphers in to do your decoding, to make your arguments, and I guarantee you that if you start using a bunch of ciphers to try to prove your points, you're going to be dismissed because people are going to say, well, it could be coincidental because you're using so many things. Within what I call this base system, these 4 ciphers, it's easy to show the relevance and, you know, the overlap and how things connect. Again, you could, for example, you could teach about that 74 thing. The relevance is 74. And most people have Netflix. You could say, here, watch the first 15 minutes of this episode. You know, the America's Book of Secrets. And I'd encourage anyone to watch that whole episode, honestly. There's a lot of information. I would say it's a good episode. America's Book of Secrets, episode 2. It's about Freemasonry in the United States of America. But right at the beginning, they talk about how George Washington had 74 generals and 33 were Masons. right away. You could teach right there. You could just pause it if you're watching with your friends and family. You could say, check this out about 74 and 33. You know, again, just with the alphabetic order. You could go Masonic 74, Occult 74, Masonry is based in Jewish teachings, the Old Testament, Kabbalah, Jewish 74, English 74, Gematria 74, Holiday 74. You could break out the other cipher and show them how Independence Day is 74. Then you could point out to them that out of the 50 states, and I always like to have people guess this because, you know, they'll probably guess the wrong number. But you could say, out of the 50 states, how many do you think sum to 74 with the alphabetic order? And again, these were things that I just did in a notebook once upon a time. Because when I first began this research, after I saw these things that equaled 74 and connected, I was like, well, maybe a bunch of things equal 74. Let me try out the 50 states and see. Out of the 50 states, only one sums to 74 with the alphabetic order. And that is Oregon, which happens to be the 33rd state in order of statehood. So 74-33. You watch that documentary, you're like, see, something about 74 and 33. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology, George Washington is 74. What are the odds of that being a coincidence? What are the odds of that being a coincidence in light of him being a Mason, what the Masonic City, Washington, D.C. is named after? And then with regards to the 33, again, it'll tell you right in that documentary, the House of the Temple, the Scottish Rite headquarters in D.C., it has 33 columns on the outside of the building, 33 pillars, however you want to put it, and each one is 33 feet tall. That shows you a fascination with 33. And in the most pure cipher, Masonry's 33, Secrecy's 33, Order's 33, Federal's 33. Don't forget that Washington, D.C., with the alphabetic order, is 137, which is the 33rd prime number. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, government is 137. The word authority, whoops, got to spell right. Authority with the alphabetic order is 137. Authority is another 47 word too, in case we missed that list earlier when we were covering DC. And again, we talked about how there's that statue in DC. I mean, just if you're trying to persuade people to understand this knowledge, get them to think about things like, you know how a few years ago they were tearing down all the Confederate statues all over the U.S., saying, you know, we need to forget this part of history? How come they haven't torn down the Confederate statue in D.C. of Albert Pike, the Freemason, in the Masonic City? Have you ever noticed that statue? He's holding his book, Morals and Dogma, where he says, all thanks is to Cabala. I mean, this is a great thing to show somebody right here. Morals and Dogma's 137, like Washington, D.C., like authority. And then you can show them it's the 33rd prime, Masonry, Secrecy, Order, Federal, all 33. And the other thing you can show them is, again, you can go on this English to Hebrew calculator. So if you go to Google and you type in English to Hebrew, and you type in the word Kabbalah, what you do is you highlight the Hebrew word, and you do a Control-C or an edit copy. Either way, it'll get you there. And then you come back to Gematria. And this is why Derek's calculator is the best. If you type in Hebrew Gematria and just plug in the Hebrew value, it's 137. That's the word Kabbalah. Like how in English, Morals and Dogmas 137, the book that says Masonry owes all thanks to Kabbalah. And there are other ciphers. If you just use the alphabetic order, Kabbalah equals 38 in Hebrew. That's just using the letter placement. Like, you know, if their alphabet was A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, it's the same thing. This cipher, you know, it's like Greek isopsephy, Hebrew Gematria. It's a little bit different numbering system that they use for their base system. But they also do have the regular order. With regards to Kabbalah being 38, again, Kabbalah is also 38, just using the English alphabetic order. There's several words in English and Hebrew that have perfect overlap. Israel's another one, Netanyahu's name's another one, and more. There's a lot of parallels between English and Hebrew. with regards to 38 and Washington, D.C. being the Masonic City, look at the coordinates of Washington, D.C. one more time. D.C. coordinates. See if that pulls it up. There it is. It's on the 38th parallel in the 77th meridian west. And Cabala's 38, the word Jew's 38, the word Judaism 77. Again, you watch a documentary like Four Blood Moons. It's a pro-Zionist documentary. In that film, they talk about how there'd be no U.S. without the Jews because it was Jewish bankers who financed the country from the very beginning. So, again, I look at things like that and I think, you know, that's probably not an accident. Again, Masonry based in Judaism, based in Jewish teachings, based in Kabbalah. I don't think it's an accident. I think this is how they've laid out the world and given us the grid that we know that we call coordinates. Now, again, people might ask you things like, well, why do the Masons like 33? What is it about 33? And remember, it's Kundalini. Kundalini is one of their things. Kundalini has Gematria of 148 and 58, just like fraternal. Fraternal's 148 and 58. Masonry is a fraternal society. But Kundalini, again, it states that human spiritual ascension happens up the 33 bones of the human vertebrae. So this is where the fixation with 33 comes. The spiritual ascension, it travels up the human vertebrae, and then it enlightens the mind's eye, which is the pineal gland. And notice pineal happens to have that 33 connection as well. But you'll only see it with the reverse alphabetic order. And by the way, on 33, some numerology books will recognize it as a master number. Again, 11 is the master number. 22 is the master builder number. And 33 is sometimes referred to as the master teacher number. For the record, in the most pure cipher, teacher is 33. So, but again, 33 with the Masons has everything to do with Kundalini. And again, Kundalini's 58, like Freemasonry, like secret society, like Rosicrucian. So, I meant to make this first introductory lesson an hour long and then take your calls. I went a little bit over. I want to show you one more thing to know about the base ciphers tonight. And if you're trying to introduce this to somebody, you can probably leave this part out of your teaching. But this is definitely something you're going to want to know as a decoder. Again, there's special rules for the 19th letter in reduction gematria. I'm going to get rid of the alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order. We just have up the reduction ciphers here. And there's something special about the 19th letter in each direction. The 19th letter, when you're just using the alphabetic order, is S. With the reverse alphabetic order, the 19th letter becomes H. And the reason there's a special rule for the 19th letter is because the numerology of 19 is 1 plus 9 is 10. And then 10 is 1 plus 0 is 1. So the 19th letter is the only letter you have to reduce 2 times to get to a single digit. And because of that, it creates this rule where the 19th letter can be 10 or 1. So I want to make a point about what happens when you make S worth 10 instead of 1. Now, we covered our 58 list, right? Well, we covered some of it. You know, again, secret society, Solomon's Temple, Rosicrucian, Freemasonry, they're all 58. Masonry, to earn your first 3 degrees, you got to pass 3 tracing boards, which are of Solomon's Temple. Tracing boards 58 like Solomon's Temple. Things like Don't Tread on Me, 58, you know, that flag from the time of the Revolution. See a lot of people flying that these days. You're definitely getting treaded all over. Things like what's on the dollar bill, Annuit Coeptus, is another 58. Also on the dollar bill, In God We Trust, 58. Remember, Tetragrammaton's 58. God, Tetragrammaton, closely related. But here's what I wanted to show you. United States, if you use this rule with the 19th letter, becomes 58. United States is also 40. Biblical number. Old Testament number. Old Testament equals 40. United States 40 in the most pure cipher. But you use this rule with S, it's 58. What about Washington? Washington, if you use the rule with S, becomes 58. So, again, there's definitely relevance to recognizing what's encoded in that 19th letter as well. The reason I suggest, if you're trying to teach somebody this the first time, which I guess in a way I am doing with this lesson, but I suspect that a lot of you here, you're already familiar with my work, so this isn't brand new to you. If you're teaching somebody who's brand new, they've never heard of this before, I suggest, saving this for a later lesson, because it's not necessary, but it does give you another wrinkle that provides further insight. Now, with regards to in reverse, again, it becomes H. H becomes the, well, let me get it up there. H becomes the 19th letter in reverse. So, the 4-letter name of God in Hebrew sums to 26. And again, you can verify all these things on your Hebrew calculator. So the 4-letter name of God, the English letters are commonly YHWH. If you take this and pull up the Hebrew, which is under the foreign ciphers, in Cipher tab, and the 4-letter name of God sums to 26, right? Just like with the alphabetic order, God is 26. And by the way, in the most pure cipher, the word letter is 26. We have a 26-letter alphabet. Gematria is in tribute to God. Do you think it's an accident that English was standardized as a 26-letter alphabet and the word God is 26? If you recognize that rule where H is seen as 10, the 4-letter name of God in reverse reduction is also 26. So again, this is why these wrinkles are important. It's part of the system. And again, the other point that can be made about the reduction ciphers, so there is the rule for the 19th letter. You'll rarely ever see me even decode and show these things, and the main reason that I don't do it very often is because I already know that people are just like, the comments have been left so many times. If you were just using one cipher, this would mean something to me, because a lot of people just think that way, like for some reason. So you start showing them the technicalities and the different rules within the system. It's just going to make people who are skeptics and not really just they're already opposed to it and they don't really want to open their mind to it or even try to understand it. If you start showing them these extra rules that can be used, it's a thing that might make them think, oh, this is even a bigger coincidence than I already thought it was, which isn't the truth. But again, the other thing to know is numerology can be in play with the reduction ciphers. And remember what numerology says. If a number reduces to 11 or 22, it doesn't have to be reduced past 11 or 22. So, for example, K in reduction becomes 2, right? Let me get rid of the reverse for a second just to make this more clear. K in reduction becomes 2. But it could also be 11 because it is the 11th letter and you do not have to reduce K. So if a word has a K in it and you're looking at the reduction cipher, you could observe this rule of the master numerology. In all the years that I've decoded, I've made like close to 10,000 videos. There might be like 4 videos where I use this rule. So I very rarely do it. But still, I'm teaching you the code so that you can be aware of it. And that would also apply to V, because V is the 22nd letter. So, normally we look at V as 4, but it could also be 22. And then the same is true in reverse. For those who decode sports, they found, that with some teams, you really want to be aware of these additional numerology rules because the numbers seem to hit with those teams, which is a subject for another time. But again, on Derek's calculator, he calls it full reduction KV or single reduction KV. That's where you observe S is 10 and the master numerology. So that's why he has these different ciphers. And it's the same thing here. E in reverse, let me switch this again. E in reverse becomes the 22nd letter. And what is it again? United States. So again, you observe the E on United States, it becomes 113, which, as we know, is a special number, right? Scottish 113, the nation found by Scottish Rite Freemasons, so that's probably not an accident. That's probably purposeful. So E becomes 22 when you observe that rule, and then P becomes the 11th letter. So if a word had a P in it in reverse, you could also see that P is 11. So again, you don't really need to use these ciphers to prove anything or to be very good at decoding. But if you like to investigate further and just analyze further, be aware of these are how these rules work. And on my site, if you decode on my site, if Derek's site's ever down, again, I've encoded those rules in here for people to use. The way you get to it is calculator settings, and then as you go down, active ciphers. Again, it's a checkbox system. If you want S to be 10, Pythagorean's reduction gematria, that's its true name, Pythagorean gematria. If you want S to be 10, you just check the box. If you want K and V to be 11 and 22, you check the box. You can check both if you want it to be that way. So same thing here. And I chose not to put as many ciphers on this calculator as there are on Derek's, because Derek did a lot of experimental ciphers. The ciphers that Derek came up with that are definitely real ciphers, I have all of those on here. I left off a lot of the experimental ciphers, but the ciphers that are definitely legit, that there can be no mistake about, I've included all of those on this site. So, and again, if you guys read my book, all of you who are watching right now, for those of you who are watching, just let me show you something real quick. If you go to Patreon, right now you click the top post to get in this live stream. If you go, I notice Patreon is loading slower and slower these days. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's my page or something wrong with their system. It didn't used to be this way. But if you go to the post below the video, there's the link to download the book. And I don't know, I guess it's not going to load right now. But if you go to the post, when you're done with this live stream, if you go to the post right below the video, there's the link to download the book. I highly encourage people to read the book. There's a specific chapter in that book that breaks down all the ciphers. There's a chapter that breaks down all the numbers. Again, the book's nearly 800 pages long. You don't need to read all of it, but you read the first 100 pages, you're going to be a very happy camper. And you don't have to read the first 100 pages. You read the first 50 pages, you'll be good to go. So, we've covered a lot tonight. Give me 1 second because the phone's charging over here. I'm going to grab the phone and take it off airplane mode in case it's on that, and then I'm going to open it up for phone calls. When I get back, I'll be ready for the first call. I'm going to write the phone number on the screen. So that's the number to call in, 509-731-0567. Tonight, please call in if you have questions, something that's not clear tonight, something you really want to know. If you're like a longtime follower and you want to give me some decode on something, I mean, that's cool, but tonight's really about the new people and answering questions that they might have from this lesson or something that didn't come up that they wish they did. Give me 1 second. Let me grab the phone real quick. Nope, I'm not done yet. I'll be right up.
Zach?
Okay, what's up, man? You're the first caller.
Hey, what's up, bro? Yeah, I was
Oh, hold on. Your call broke up. Are you still there?
sometimes. Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Hello?
So what's up?
Yeah, sometimes I notice that you use all four, the regular four ciphers, but sometimes I notice that you use the Jewish or the satanic cipher.
Right.
And you wouldn't. What I'm trying to say is that you wouldn't have like that was the only number that led you to the how do I say it? Hello?
Well, no, I'm listening. Are you saying how come sometimes I'll show certain things in those ciphers outside of the base ciphers?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Sure. It's because, okay, like for example, the number 118. When I first began my research, outside of gematria, I just started to notice patterns. Like I noticed that the number 118 showed up in a lot of deaths historically, and for the longest time, I didn't know why that was. I was like, there's got to be something about this 118, because I just keep finding it in the date numerology and the distance from the birthday. Just so, like, for a year, I was documenting all these celebrity deaths, Tupac and beyond. 118, 118, and I was like, what is it about this 118? Well, it was one of my followers who found like an online calculator. Gematrix.org was the website they found. And I noticed, if you're not familiar with Gematrix.org, it gives you 3 ciphers. It gives you the alphabetic order times 6. So A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, D is 24, which is absolutely a relevant cipher, and Jewish Gematria. And when I typed in death on that website, I was like, oh my God, death is 118. I was like, no wonder. And I just knew right away that there was no way that was an accident, because I'd been just staring at this number for so long, trying to figure out why it showed up in celebrity deaths so often. And I was like, there it is, Jewish Gematria. I need to learn what this is. And again, the way...
When do we know to... I mean, is there any way for us to know that, because that's not in one of the 4 ciphers that you have, how will we know that we need to look into either the Jewish Gematria or the...
Okay, so if you're trying to expand your research and you're already familiar with the 4 base ciphers, I encourage you, when you do come to decode, you know, again, if you're trying to wake somebody up to this, you don't want to give them too many ciphers at once and show them all. They might think it's all just a big coincidence. It's probably best to just start with something like the alphabetic order and all the 74s. And you know, something like the holiday Independence Day example. But for you who's trying to decode and just learn more, it might be good when you're looking at things to just have the Jewish Gematria cipher open and just see what comes up. Again, for me, a lot of the reason I knew things were relevant is because I didn't know what the meaning of the number was, but I just saw, again, how in my notes, in my journal, how things kept coming up, and I just want to know. I was like, man, why 118 all the time? Why 118 all the time? Then I find this Jewish Gematria, and I go, okay, so that's why 118 keeps showing up with death. So that's the way I discovered it. And remember, this is still a work in progress. Even though I've learned a lot in the going on 7 years that I've been doing this, I guarantee that, like, if there's a percentage of information to know, I know a very small percentage even at this point. So there's still so much more to expand onto and to figure out. So, I mean, if you're trying to see if Jewish Gematria is relevant, I just have the cipher open. And again, a lot of the times I know a number's significant because, you know, like, for example, let's say that you were looking at the death of some celebrity and you saw that he died 249 days from his birthday. And you're like, what's 249? I don't know that number. I've never heard Zach talk about 249. Maybe that guy's name in Jewish Gematria sums to 249. And then you'd be like, okay, that's probably where they're going with this. So, does that answer your question?
Yes. And thank you. And one last thing. Yesterday, the lady from Canada, that was...
Uh-oh, you cut out again, caller. You cut out again. The lady from Canada, I know, yeah. The lady who inspired me to do today's Gematria School lesson.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's it, brother. That's it.
All right, man. Appreciate the call. You have a good night.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
Take care. Caller?
How things kept coming up.
Caller, can you mute your video? You're on.
Hello?
Yeah, you just got to mute the video. You're on.
All the time. Then I find this Jewish Gematria. Okay.
All right, there you go. What's up?
Are you answering questions from Zach's show?
I am Zach. I'm Zach. It's just when you watch the video, it's like on a 30-second delay. So you're talking to me live through the phone.
Okay.
This is me.
Okay.
It's the same. You're part of the live stream now. When you watch this later, you'll see. You just became part of the live stream. But whenever you're watching a live stream, it's about on a 30-second delay from live.
Oh, God, yeah, sorry. Okay, thanks for telling me that. Hey, I've been listening to you for quite a while. And, you know, as a newbie, it's kind of confusing. But the thing that keeps me staying and sticking around and wanting to learn this is when I put my name into the calculator, Mark Johnson, and I put Donald Trump's name in, it's the same number in all 4 base ciphers. What does that mean to me?
Well, I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily know that means anything. I mean, if you found that you really liked Donald Trump before or something, I mean, maybe that would explain something. But some things can be coincidental. Again, there definitely is an organic side to the code, and you know, again, have you ever heard me talk about my family and the number 89?
Yeah, I have, yes.
Okay, so, I mean, I know through things like that there's definitely an organic side. I mean, what you asked me what that connection might mean between you and him. I mean, does it mean anything to you? How do you feel about the person?
How do I feel about him?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm intrigued by him. I like him. I think I like what he's doing, sort of. But he's a big mouth. So,
sure. Sure. Sure.
I mean, I don't really feel a connection, and that's why I'm asking. It's confusing. When I got to I'm the same in 4 ciphers, and I'm just wondering, is that in Gematria? Does that tell me anything or not?
Well, that is really interesting. I mean, that might be part of the reason. It could be part of the reason you're drawn to him. Well, when I first began looking at this research and just reading books, I was in a Barnes and Noble or a Borders. I was in one of those stores, and I was just back reading a book in the section. It was about numerology, and it talked about the organic side. And in that same book, it taught about only one cipher, the most pure cipher, and it taught you how to get your birth numerology and your name numerology or your name gematria. And it said you'll find that these numbers that are in your birthday, that are in your name, you'll find that the people you make friends with, the people you have romantic relationships with, your own family, you'll find these parallels in numbers. And I've had people reach out and say, I'm not finding that, but I've had a lot of people reach out and say that, yeah, that's exactly how it is, and that's how it's been for me too. I had never decoded, like my birth numerology before I started doing any of this research, but something that stood out to me right away is, my birthday, July 21st, 1983, it breaks down to 31 and 4, and I thought, okay, 31, my best friend growing up, his birthday's March 1st. I started breaking down my other friends' birthdays. I was like, wow, out of 3 of my 4 best friends, 2 of them have 31 birth numerology like me, and then my other guy's March 1st. And so, again, I mean, I think the numbers that do come from our lives, there is something about the relationships we make, and obviously you probably don't really have a relationship with Donald Trump, but you like the guy, so I mean, maybe there's something there with that. Have you looked at the numbers with your friends and family and significant other or past relationships?
No, I've never gone that far. Now, if you want to know what I like about Donald Trump, before he got elected president, and when I watched his television show and all that, I thought I admired his rise to the top, but now that I know more about him, I'm not sure I do anymore, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I don't know if there's any connection at all there, but it was just odd to me, and I just wondered, you just pretty much answered my question, so...
Okay.
It's probably a coincidence, right?
Well, I don't like to use that word, and it is really interesting that you have the exact same gematria in all 4 ciphers. But again, what I would encourage you to do is go investigate, like, your parents, your friends, your family, and see what you find, because a lot of people find, like, wow, this is fascinating. To me, that's where it's at. So.
Okay. Hey, thank you for doing this class. I've been looking for this for a long time. I really appreciate that you're doing this. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for being a part of it. You have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Caller?
Hi, I'm calling in to talk to Zach.
Yeah, you're on the phone with Zach.
Hello. Let me just mute this. My question is, Zach, I'm a brand new person to your website, to YouTube, and I'm very, very interested in this. My question is, do they do this on purpose? Like, you talked about Trump with the judge, and do they actually know they're doing this, or is this something that's coded into them? That's the part that's confusing me.
Sorry, can you ask your question again? I had a little interruption in the room, but please, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So do they know that they're doing this, or is this coded into them? Like, I think that's the part that's confusing me. You're connecting dots. So you connect the dots, all these numbers match, everything matches. But do they, when President Trump puts a new judge into office, does he look at numbers before he does that? Or is this just something that actually happens because it's innate? It's something that... It's like a code that we're following.
That's a great question. So my answer to that is I think a lot of the people that we talk about, they don't really have any idea. I feel like they're kind of like puppets on strings and they're following orders. Now, when it comes to a guy like Trump, again, in his book, off the top of my head, I can't remember which book it is, but in one of his books, he references his Kabbalah teacher. So that's a sign he might know a thing or two about Kabbalah. Because he references as a child, so he was learning about this at a young age. So I would be more inclined to think somebody like Trump probably has a clue. But I can't say for certain. I mean, I'd only know for certain if I was him or I knew enough about him. But the fact that he's referenced that he had a Kabbalah teacher as a child, that makes me think there's a chance he knows a thing or two.
So when these numbers all connect, do people make decisions based on the fact that their numbers, like we can't put this person in because his number doesn't match what we want?
I think that's essentially, whoever the people that are orchestrating this at the top, I think that is absolutely how they think and operate, and that's the way. Essentially, to me, it's like they look at the world as a chessboard, and they're like, okay, this guy has the right fit for this place right here on the board, and that's why he's going to be on this place on the board. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the stuff we've been covering with the coronavirus and like how that woman came out, Dr. Birx, to talk about social distancing and her name equals the same thing as social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. And does she know that her name equals the same thing as social distancing? My guess on that is no, but maybe she had a Kabbalah teacher as a young person too. I couldn't say for sure.
So then my last question would be then, as a newbie, how does this plays into the elite and it plays into the people who are in power? How does it play into the everyday person?
Well, for the everyday person, to me, the main reason I would think an everyday person would want to know about this is so they can see how we're kind of all being played for fools by our government, by our media, so that we can end this ongoing charade. But then the other thing to know about would be like, well, maybe the Kabbalists aren't wrong. Maybe there is something to this, and maybe by understanding the numbers that are relevant to us, we know what to look for in life and what might resonate with us and who might actually be a good friend for us. At first when I read things like this, I thought it sounded silly, but now that I've researched it and looked into my history and my family's history and my friends, I mean, to me it seems like there's a lot of relevance, so...
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You have a good night.
You too.
Caller?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. How are you? I just started, I don't know, really getting into this. I can't believe I got you on the phone, but I just wanted to run something by you. Okay, so remember on March 26th when Madero was indicted?
Right.
So I started digging, and since we're in a leap year, we are one day ahead of every other year, correct?
Right.
Okay. So on March 25th, 1986, the same thing happened to a Surrey named Army Captain Etienne, starts with a B. He was same thing, cocaine smuggling, the same route to the U.S. and stuff. And also noticed, same events like hurricanes, volcano eruptions, tornadoes, they all happen on the same day in history, but just, for instance, this is 34 years from each other from 86 till now. So what do you think 34 has the significance of?
Well, the 139 is the 34th prime number. And so, for example, let me show, you're probably not looking at the screen right now, but the word free with the word free with the alphabetic order is 34, and with the reverse alphabetic order it's 74. And think about how this nation, our Independence Day is July 4th, 7-4. America equals 139. Freemasonry equals 139. So America gets free, 139 the 34th prime on 7-4. So that would be one example. 34 has other meanings too. Like, for example, the word murder is 34. It shows up a lot in suspicious deaths. So a lot of people will always ask me, Zach, can you assign a certain number to mean one thing definitively? There's no number that means one thing definitively. It's more about understanding how that number's being used in the specific ritual, where its relevance is to that ritual. And what you just said about, things happening on the same days in history, years apart, those were the types of things I was looking at for a long time before I knew about Gematria. And then when I learned Gematria, I began to understand, okay, this is why it's happening on these dates. This is why it's recurring again and again on these dates. And again, what do they say? They say history repeats itself, and those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And you know, if you don't have knowledge, you're ignorant. So again, we're trying to like remedy all those things. We're trying to understand our history better. We're trying to have more knowledge. We're trying to understand why things are happening the way they're happening. And
right, but it doesn't repeat itself because of coincidence. It's purposely done, correct?
So, okay, just to play devil's advocate to that thought, I would say it's not happening because of coincidence, definitely. And I would say some things are definitely purposefully being done to pay tribute to history. Just like right now how, you know, this coronavirus thing's going on, and it's being compared to the Spanish flu, and the word corona is a Spanish word, and now they're making a big deal about this social distancing, which equals 102, like how the Spanish flu began 102 years ago. So, like, to me, that's a purposeful manipulation. But the devil's advocate thing would be, some of my critics will say, well, Zach, how can you be certain that some of these things that you're saying are being manipulated? Since this could be the way God operates, maybe this just really is the way the world occurs and reoccurs. And I'm open to that thought, but again, a lot of the stuff that I look at and talk about, it really does feel like it's manipulated and in a mocking tone. I don't know if you saw the video clips I showed in recent days of Bill Gates on CNN, where Sanjay Gupta references the name of the documentary he was in, but doesn't state that was the name of the documentary, and Bill Gates laughs about it seemingly inappropriately. Like, to me, that's why I feel like there's a sinister side and manipulation and people playing games right in front of our face and expecting us not to get it. So.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. You have a good night. Oh, shoot. That last caller, I missed it by 1 second. Here, I'll call you back, last caller, since I meant to click switch over. Oh, they hung up. Shoot. Well, the line is open. Sweet lady's got me in here in the closet, and now she's trying to tell me to get out of here because she needs to take a shower, but we're going to go a little bit longer. Caller, you're on.
Hey, Zach, it's John from Philadelphia. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. What's up, man?
Yeah, I have a cipher. When you start your decoding, my thing is, when you start with dates, is that really significant to start when you start any decoding with any? Because I know you start out with dates, and then it leads into other things like the person's name and. How do you determine when you start with dates or?
I always start with the date. I should have talked about that tonight. Tonight I just really wanted to focus on the Gematria ciphers and understanding the ciphers. But yeah, I always start with the date. To me, the date's the foundation. Because, again, it's just like the video I put out today about all the Sunday deaths and diagnosis. Almost all of them fit into the theme of the date. The date was March 29th. 29/3, like 293, the 62nd prime, and almost everybody we read about dying or being diagnosed on that date had a 62 connection. So, again, prime number relationships, huge thing to know. And on gematrinator.com, if you go to tools and number properties, it'll bring up this window. And if you type in a number, like if you were curious, like if 293 prime? Oh, yeah, it is. It says prime. Yes, it's the 62nd prime. Because if you would have decoded all the stories yesterday, you would have seen how 62 just kept popping up in the names. Well, here's why you're reading about all these 62 people on 29/3. And then I always also pay attention to the day count. So like March 29th, this year's a leap year, so it was the 89th day of the year. The first death reported in the news yesterday was the CBS news anchor. I want to say her name was like Maria Mercado or Marcia Mercado, something like that. But her name equaled 89. So, yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to the dates. And there's different things to look at with the date. The day count itself, the 89th day of the year, you definitely want to know that. The number patterns with the date, March 29th, it can be written 329 or 29/3. And remember, the majority of the world does the date opposite of how we do in the U.S. So they'd write it 29/3, like 293, the 62nd prime. So you want to be aware of that. And then the other thing to do would be to be aware of the date numerology. And I was planning to do that in the next lesson. Again, if you have the book, you can just read it. I want to say that I covered date numerology in chapter 2 of the book. So that could be your reading homework before next week. But there's 4 paths that you really want to know with your date numerology, and that would be the other thing. Like, for example, yesterday had 72 date numerology. One of the deaths yesterday was of a boxer, and he lost his dad, and the word dad equals 72 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. So, and there was other things that fit in with that story, but just the fact that it was about how his dad died on the 72 date numerology, that's where the date numerology component fits in. So, but yeah, you're absolutely
so
right.
I think it's based off that Jewish calendar is what you're basically implying, correct? Is because everything goes by date, the majority is date related.
Well, so I don't normally do the date numerology off the Hebrew calendar because there are other calendars in circulation. That could be something that someone could expand on and start checking out the date numerology of the Hebrew calendar and the day count of the Hebrew year. I bet there is something there because that's what I mean. There's always more. I mostly stick to the Gregorian calendar because that's what people are used to. But again, you hear callers in my radio show call in about the 13-moon calendar. There have been people who've called in about the Hebrew calendar. So that is something you could expand on. I mostly do stick to the Gregorian calendar, which is the calendar system that, we commonly use.
Okay, man. Thank you, Zach, and I love your work, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, have a good night. I just realized, you guys, I realized something. It does not, hold on. Does it not show up when I do that? Hold on, does it not show up? I realize that you guys do not see something on my display that I'm showing right now. I'll fix that in a second. Let me take this call and then I'll show you what I thought I was already showing you. Caller?
Hey, what's good, Zach?
What's up, man?
Hey, man, I'm Preston. I've been watching you for a little bit. One question I had about the coding, I get parts of it, but I'm more interested in, what is the perspective that's taken for you to, do your decodes?
Well, what do you mean perspective that I take to do my decodes? How do you mean that?
Just in general, because there's definitely a perspective. It's not, it's straight, you know what I mean? For example, yesterday I think you had, you did the one with the April 30th, right? With Trump, where it ended up being on the 121st day. I think today there was one I figured out using the same formula, but it's not always the same formula. Today, for example, the ship that went to New York City, I think it's called the Comfort. The Comfort is 90. I was trying to figure it out in New York. I was putting in New York, and it's not New York. But if you put in New York City, New York is 90, and it ends up falling on the 90th day. But that thing doesn't always work with the date. Sometimes you're doing birthdays and all that other stuff, and I'm more interested in how you come up with stuff. How do you, what I'm saying? What actually happens that you figure it out the way you do?
Well, I mean, to me it sounds like you did it. So you saw a news story today about a ship called Comfort, and the news story's coming on today, the 90th day of the year. And so, I mean, to me, that's the main detail right there. That's why you're hearing about this ship on the 90th day of the year, and that's why they probably got some headline that captured your eye on this day, because that's normally how it is. And to me, it's not like I feel like I just do the same thing every single day. Normally, I'll take the time to read the news story. I read the headline. Normally, a lot of times the clue's just right there in the headline with the word they're emphasizing. But then I'll read the story, and I'll usually look at, because in almost every news story, they insert some numbers. So I'll be like, okay, why did they throw those numbers in here? What are these numbers really about? And then I'll be like, okay, today's this day of the year. And then, just like I was telling the last caller, I'll look at the day count of the year. I'll make sure that there's no prime number relationship with the date. If there is, oftentimes there's a lot of riddles with the prime number relationship of the day. And again, this is what we do in sports, too. It's just like the other week in UFC, it was the 67th day of the year. 67's the 19th prime. The main fighter was going for his 19th win. I mean, those types of things are money in the bank. I mean, riddles like that are almost always going to come through. But The thing was, also that same day, the 67th day of the year, that was the day they reported the 19th death. That was one of the top headlines all day. 19th person dies from coronavirus in U.S. And, of course, it's the 67th day of the year, the 19th prime, plus Wuhan equals 67 with the alphabetic order. But you'll notice how often, if you pay attention to sports and news, the same numbers that are showing up in the news stories that day, they're the same numbers that are showing up in the sports games. So... But
okay.
again, you gotta get good with your numbers on the date. So definitely always pay attention to the day count of the year, the day that it is, and also how many days are left in the year. I'd pay attention to that number too. And then again, look to see if there's a prime number relationship with the date. Again, like 29/3 is like 293, the 62nd prime. Almost all the stories had to do with 62 on March 29th. And then again, you learn your date numerology, which we're really going to cover in the next lesson. So again, I don't want to do the whole next lesson tonight, just because right now tonight we're really focusing on the letters and the numbers. But yeah, date numerology is super important. Again, in the second chapter of the book, I'm pretty sure that's where I introduce date numerology. So again, you read those first 30 pages or so, I think you'll know the date numerology methods that I teach. But once you have those things together, I mean, you got pretty much your foundation for doing this research. And just always be real consistent in how you do things. You're thorough with your date. So every day when I start my decode, I'd make sure I have my date down and my numbers for my date. And then I would just pay attention how the news stories are. I mean, you guys have probably seen the videos where I'm like, look at this. Today's date numerology is 64. Look at the key detail in all three of CNN's headline stories today. They're all 64. This person's name's 64. This person's name's 64. This story's about this 64 thing. I mean, it's like that, like, pretty much every single day. So...
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, like in that case, it's more like like journaling also has to go with it too. It's not just like freely, nilly-willy, just looking up numbers. Like I get what you're saying though, and I mean like that's technically what you're doing. You're journaling all of this as you're and using that information to like to see what you're looking at. I mean, that kind of makes sense. So I mean, like
exactly,
like dedication, bro.
That's exactly right. Because to know what numbers are going to be relevant, because that's what I'm saying. I'm saying every day they're contriving news stories with this code of numbers and letters. So they're taking the numbers that are relevant to the date, and then they're giving you stories that fit in through Gematria with the numbers that are for that day. They're encoding those same numbers in the people who's showing up in the headlines. Just like how earlier we talked about how October 6th, the day leaving 86 days left in the year. That's why they have this ritual with Supreme Court justices whose names are 86. And then that applies to sexual assault, which is what connects the two judges. They were both accused of sexual assault. And in the case of Clarence Thomas, who was connected to that story, Anita Hill was the accuser, whose name's also 86. So that's what I mean. They're creating the story using Gematria, but taking the numbers that belong to that date, and they're doing the same thing every single day.
Cool.
All right, man. Appreciate it. All right.
Hey, man, appreciate it, man. Great work, man. Thank you.
All right, you have a good night. Take care. Caller? Uh-oh. Oh, they're calling back. Caller?
Yeah, how you doing?
What's up, man?
It's your friend from New York. How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. I recognize your voice.
A few things. There's another Tom Hanks movie. I'm not sure if you probably heard of it, called Splash.
I actually don't know that one. I don't know that one. Splash.
Yeah, Splash. It was with Daryl Hannah.
Okay.
It came out March 9th, 3/9, of course, in 1984.
Okay.
Okay, it's 111 minutes long. And it's about a mermaid who saves an 8-year-old boy from drowning. And 20 years later, she shows up naked at the Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
And I don't know. It's just another water reference. I don't know.
Well,
I just think that there's probably something there.
Well, to me, you said the movie's 111 minutes, and it came out on March 9th, 3/9, and it ends up in New York at the Statue of Liberty. Well, New York's 111 with the alphabetic order and 39 with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. And if we look at it more, there's probably a whole lot more to take apart. But since it's centered in New York, I think that's a big part of it right there.
Yeah, and a couple couple other things. Do you know Pearl Jam, the band that's from Seattle, Washington?
Of course.
They came out with an album last couple of days.
Oh, I didn't know they had a new album. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like 11 years ago was their last album. It's called Gigaton.
Gigaton.
You know what that is? It's a way to measure a nuclear explosion and like how much TNT or something like that.
That's creepy.
Yeah, is that creepy or what?
Yeah, I don't like that because Eddie Vedder, he's the singer for Pearl Jam. I mean, they've done some rituals with him in recent years, and Gigaton, that's the word, huh? All right, I'm gonna look into that. Yeah, that's creepy. Just because.
And there's a song called 7 O'Clock, and it has to do with 7 o'clock in the morning, and the lyrics are kind of disturbing.
So what's interesting about the release date of this album, since this has to do with nuclear, is this year it's a leap year, so it released on the 87th day of the year, but typically it's the 86th day of the year, and of course when you think of the big explosion, you think about Hiroshima on August 6th, 8/6. So, like, the anniversary of the release of the album in non-leap years will be the 86th day of the year. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, that's a weird album name, so.
Yeah, and Cuomo made a quote the other day, again describing the coronavirus, this time as a bullet train. Bullet train was his exact word.
Bullet train, okay.
Yep, it's 134, 44, 163, and 73 is the numbers, which is all the 38 prime, 163 is 38 prime.
And pandemic's 38, right, okay.
Yeah, and Cuomo, his birthday leaves 25 days left in the year. That's the 97 is the 25th prime number, so there's another, relationship to 97. And I know we talked about the 4/6 date being the 97th day of the year.
Yeah.
And May 1st is also a very interesting day because that's the birth date of communism, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that off the top of my head. I'd have to look that up. That's interesting. I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's the birthday of communism, and it's also like I know you speak about. I know you're familiar with Mark Passio's work. He says one of these days that on May 1st they're going to break out one of their biggest mass death rituals like that you've ever seen.
Well, this year would be really a year to watch because that's also the Bavarian Illuminati's birthday, and this year they turned 244 years old, and May 1st leaves 244 days left in the year. So I expect we'll see some very interesting headlines this year on May 1st.
Okay, and just one more thing. Cuomo's birthday 12/6 to 5/1 is exactly 21 weeks and 147 days. Okay. And his name equals 51 in full reduction. Andrew Cuomo, his full name equals 51.
Sure. And again, the big thing to really pay attention to with Cuomo right now is that he's the 56th governor of New York. And again, coronavirus is 56 in the most pure cipher, and he's the most notable person in the U.S. in this whole coronavirus thing. We're hearing more about Cuomo than anybody else. And his full name, Andrew Mark Cuomo, equals 67 like Wuhan. Today, CNN, for a big part of the day, had their headline up as New York Governor, come help us, please. And they emphasized, come help us, please, which equals the exact same thing as Andrew Mark Cuomo with the Alphabetic Order and the Alphabetic Order with the rules of numerology. You'll see how they do that all the time with headlines. I mean, if you just wanted to practice Gematria, just look at what phrase CNN or Fox News emphasizes each day. Decode those numbers and take a little time to decode because I guarantee you, every single time they're coding something that is relevant to that person, that date, that story. So...
Yeah, he's the one that came up with all the tsunami, all the different ways to use tsunami in a phrase that they kept highlighting.
Right.
But and I'll just leave you with it. Well, one quick thing: Hurricane Sandy was formed on 10/22, which is a lot like 1/22. His birthday to 4/6 is also 122 days. So that's just some other connection there.
Okay. Hey, brother, since I know you're a longtime veteran, I want to open up for all the new people here tonight that just have questions. So I appreciate it, man. All right, you take care.
See ya.
Caller? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I muted my video. I hope you can hear me now. So my question, I wanted to see if you could give us some tips on how to format a decode. I kind of did one, and I used Excel and converted it to a PDF, but then I wasn't able to upload that on Free to Find Truth. So do you think opening a blog is the best way, or...
It might not be the best way, but it's the way I've done it because a blog is like an ongoing running journal, and most blogs have a search feature, so you can always reference your work. And like if you, like for example, if you go to my old blog, which I stopped using at the beginning of January, freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. If you're on your computer in the top left, in the top left corner, there's a search bar, and like you could type in a number there, and you'll find tons of posts, and you can see like the relevance of that number. But that's the nice thing about having a blog and an electronic search, so that over time you can go back and look at your old notes and see how the same numbers keep coming up and what kinds of stories they're in. So I would suggest, if you want to do this and that you're interested in this and you enjoy doing this, to create a blog. Because then you're also you're putting something out there that somebody else could find. You could help wake somebody else up to this too. So I think that's a great idea.
All right, cool. And then I guess what is it that you do once you've got your Gematrinator screen up? You just do like a screenshot. I guess you throw it into Paint. You're cropping out what you want, and then like pasting that section in the blog, and then it allows you to also like type free text underneath. Is that pretty much how it'll work?
Yeah, and you don't have to put the screenshots up. I mean, you could also... I put the screenshots up...
I find it's helpful for the visual when you want to look through the,
Sure. So that's why I do it too, and just so that people can see it, because I could just write it out and say this equals that, but then people might not believe. So if you go back and watch my oldest blog post, I used to type everything out, and... I learned to type everything out really. I can do the calculations in my head for everything and type it out pretty quick. That's how I used to do my old blog posts before I even knew that there were any things to take screenshots of. So I wouldn't suggest if you're new to do that because it takes time to learn the ciphers. But yeah, I do take the screenshot. I have a Mac, so it's easy to take a screenshot. Part of the reason I like Mac better than PC, I think PC's actually become better than this in recent years, but in the time I've been working with computers, I learned that Macs for screenshots, it just makes things really easy. So yeah, I take screenshots, and then I'll put the picture up, the illustration, and then write the accompanying words, and just do it story after story. So.
All right, cool. Yeah, because just wanted to do my first one yesterday, and I tried to share it, but then we can only upload, I think it's JPEGs onto the Free to Find Truth. So. Yeah, if it was a PDF, I probably could have just uploaded the document that I had created, but otherwise, I'm not sure how to get that on there, like formatting-wise.
You should be able... Okay, so if you have an image that's not a JPEG, if you go to File, Save As, you should be able to save whatever that image is as a JPEG. Files...
Yeah, I was trying, but for some reason I wasn't able to from Excel or from Adobe, I guess, from the PDF, so maybe it's just...
I will talk to the web developer. I'm glad you brought that up to me because I wasn't even aware of that, but I'll ask the web developer if there's a way he can... What type of files are your picture shots as? Do you know what they are?
Well, it was a PDF document. I just had the Excel document. I just made it one page and then converted it to a PDF. So if we had the ability to upload a PDF, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'm going to tell the web director that we want that functionality. He should be able to do that for us. So.
Cool.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, you take care. Thank you.
All right. Alrighty, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye. Okay, while we're waiting for the next call, a cool movie to check out, because right in the beginning, in the opening credits, they're turning letters into numbers. The movie's called In Time. And let me take this call, and then I'll tell you about this movie real quick. There's a lot of things on the screen to practice with throughout the movie. Caller, you're on. Oh, hold on. I can't hear you for... Oh, let me fix it. There it is. All right, now I hear you. What's up, man?
Hey, Zach, thanks for taking my call.
Of course,
You're still doing the Gematria School, right?
This is Gematria School, yeah?
Hey, I just wanted to just put down an observation I made last night. I've been listening to pretty much everything you've put out over the years, and I haven't heard you say this one. I was watching this movie called The Last Dragon.
Okay.
Made by Barry Gordy back in the early 80s.
Okay.
I was watching this last night. Have you heard of this movie?
No, I gotta look it up. The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon. It's the only kung fu movie Motown Records ever put out.
Huh.
And Vanity, here's your connection. Vanity was in it. She's the lead role for the woman lead role. Anyway, it's prefaced, and all your black audiences they're all going to know this because we all grew up watching this movie. So when you realize that, anyway, the main character in the movie, his name's Bruce Leeroy, and his teacher sends him out on a mission to find the master that'll take him to the next level. But Leroy doesn't know that he already has the knowledge to get to the next level, to get to the globe. His instructor has nothing left to teach him. So he sends him off with a gold belt and says, "Go find this teacher named Sum Dum Goy, who will teach you the rest. That will take you to the final level, to where you will get the glow. The glow meaning that you have the supremacy of everything."
Sure.
Okay. I've been watching this movie since I was 10 years old, Zach. I could not understand. Even I've been listening to you since 2015. I couldn't make the connection until last night. Sum Dum Goy. That's us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they mocked us.
You see what day this movie came out in history?
What's that?
Do you know what day this movie came out in history?
No, I don't.
March 22nd.
Oh my God! I'm telling you, your black audience, which is a lot, because I listen to you all the time, and you have a lot of black audience, a lot of black callers. I'm from Hawaii. I picked up on this at 10 years old. I didn't know what it meant until just last night. I was watching it again, and I caught on to it again. I said, "Oh my gosh, they've been mocking us for, longer than, obviously we know we've been mocked for hundreds of years, but they've been mocking us in our own culture, in our own subcultures, in our own, who would have thought that Berry Gordy would have been mocking us with Some Dum Goy?"
Sure. And for people who don't know, Berry Gordy established Motown Records in 59, and we know about 59 in black history. Negro, slave, blues, Rosset, all equals 59 with the alphabetic order. Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year, so, and just because Berry Gordy's name on it doesn't necessarily mean that it's his movie. He could be taking orders from somebody else, like I suspect Spike Lee does, but... No. Your black audience has been following this movie ever since it came out. And I have too. And this is if you ever watch this movie, you will know that this is put out by Motown Records, because it has such a twist with black music and rap and kung fu and all this stuff. You'll know. I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm just saying that, even though that's all true, there could still be somebody behind Berry Gordy. Like, I doubt he's the guy who made the character named Sum Dum Goy. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you what, Zach. And I'm not trying.
Oh, shoot, he disconnected. You can call back, man. I'm sorry, I disconnected for some reason. But I'm going to check out this movie. I appreciate the heads up. So, another movie to check out, kung fu movie, is Game of Death. For people who don't know, Game of Death is Bruce Lee's last movie that was made while he was still alive. It came out years after his death. He died while filming. But if you've never seen Game of Death, Bruce Lee, he plays a character that's just like himself, a Hollywood martial artist, and in the film, there's a scene where a guy loads a real bullet in a gun and shoots him, just like how his son died on the set of The Crow, and if you're not aware, in the most pure cipher, The Crow is 38, like death is 38 with the alphabetic order, but his son Brandon Lee died on the set of The Crow, supposedly when a bullet was loaded into a prop gun and it went off and killed him. So, if you've never seen Game of Death, definitely check out that movie.
Bruce Lee,
caller?
character that's just like
Caller? You're on.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
I got a question, man. I've been following you for about 2 years now, and I see all the rituals. I've waking a lot of people up to this knowledge, and every time I decode something, it's always something evil, something dealing with, that's diabolical or whatnot. Do they ever do anything that is positive? Like, Do these numbers ever match up to anything that's positive?
Well,
You understand?
Well, I'm not going to say that's not the case, but I mean, what I'm spending so much time, because when we're looking at the mainstream media, which is what I spend all my time doing, not that I like doing this, because I can't stand the mainstream media. My whole purpose in doing this is helping people to wake up to this matrix of misinformation that's being used to mislead us and control us. But I mean, I don't think they're really putting anything positive in the mainstream. They're trying to like give us, negativity, fear, division, hate. Consumerism. I mean, the things that the mainstream promotes is not really good for us on any level, physical level, a spiritual level. So I feel like we're decoding darkness. Now, that's not to say that there's not somebody out there in the world that's using this knowledge for positivity. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are. Yeah, for example, the word witch. A lot of people, when they hear the word witch, they automatically think that means it's negative, but historically there's been good witches, there's still parts of the world where my sweet ladies from, in Burma, they still have like the medicine woman, the witch woman who comes out and does the spells so that they have a good harvest of food. So I'm sure that there are people that are trying to put this knowledge to positive use, but when we're talking about decoding the mainstream, I mean, I think we see why it's not really that positive. I can actually think of some examples where maybe you could say it was borderline positive. There's been some occasions in the NFL. It's been like Monday Night Football on a 44 date numerology. And remember, with the alphabetic order, cancer's 44, chemo's 44, kill's not a positive word, but just cancer and chemo are both 44. There's been like a football, Monday Night Football special where before the game, like nobody knows this. They don't realize it's a 44 date numerology, that cancer equals 44. But the special in, the hour special before they play the Monday Night Football game, they got like a few players that went and visited some child at some hospital who's dying from cancer, and they bought him a jersey, and, they got him a ticket to the game, Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I've seen some things like that, and I'm like, wow, they're doing this story because today has the 44 date, and that's the cancer. And then, you end up laughing because at the end of the night, the team that did that for the kid, they won 27-17. There's like 44 points scored. And no one's picking up on any of this. But in a way, you could say, like, okay, I guess maybe that was kind of positive. But then at the same time, it's like, well, this is also a rigged football game. But I guess that's about as close as I could come to an example of a positive thing as I've seen. So
it's just kind of crazy to me that everything they do is evil and pertains to, trying to drag the people down. Even with them, giving people money or fulfilling people's dreams, it always comes with a cost.
Right.
Or they have to, murder somebody in their family or, something crazy is always attached to something that supposedly is supposed to be good. And I never see anything good, and I just want to know that I never see anybody talk about any good side of this, and it doesn't seem like it is one.
Well, again, I mean, I don't want to say that nobody's out there not doing good with it, but I mean, I'm here dedicated to exposing the evil that's being done in this world and how it is being done by this code. So that is the focus, and it is a dark thing. But again, I mean, we got to bring light to the darkness. That's my whole perspective and reason for doing this. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. And again, the media is not a very positive thing, really. And even the things that people think they like and are addicted to, it's really not good for them, most of it. So.
That's what's up. I appreciate you, man. I'm calling out of South Carolina. My name's Vic Logan.
I appreciate it.
For a little while. I'm glad you took my call, man. Appreciate your work, man.
Yeah.
You woke me up a long time ago, about two years ago, like I said, and man, it's just amazing what you do. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, and thanks for listening, and thanks for calling in. Appreciate it, man. You have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Okay. For anyone who's trying to call in and I'm not picking up, it's not that I'm screening your call, it's just that it's a cell phone. I can only take one call at a time. And for the United Kingdom caller, do me a favor, go on Skype and just all one word, free to find truth. T-O, free T-O, find truth. Send me a message, just say you're the guy from the UK. I already pay way too much a month on my cell phone bill, and I don't want to give any more money to these companies, so get me on Skype, and I will connect your call that way. freetofindtruth.com. And this could be the guy right here. He might already be on it. So, all right.
One word. Free.
New Jersey, you're on.
Find.
New Jersey, you're on. Can you mute your video?
Show, find truth.
New Jersey, you got to mute your video.
Just say you're the guy from the UK.
New Jersey, you're on.
Too much amount on my cell phone bill, and I don't want to give any more money to these companies. So
New Jersey. New Jersey.
and I will connect your call that
All right.
way.
Sorry, New Jersey. I'm switching over to Florida. Florida, you're on.
Hey, what's up, Zach?
What's up? Oh, it sounds like Jonathan. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, not much, man. I got the hell up out of California, man. I'm in Alabama.
Okay.
So yeah, I got out. As soon as I got out, like literally like a few hours later, that's when they did the shutdown.
Well, that's good you got out of there.
Yeah, and remember the governor said that 56% of people in California are going to get coronavirus.
Huh. Yeah, that's right. That they threw out that 56% figure, exactly.
Yeah. I got another 56. I got it. Okay, now can you go on YouTube and I want you to pull up the cell therapy video.
Pull up what?
Cell therapy by Goodie Mob.
Oh yeah, cell therapy. Yeah, I'm very aware of this music video.
Yeah. Hey, this is crazy. I mean, like, you know, like, okay, like this song is like I mean, I knew about the song when it came out, obviously, but this is one of the first songs to talk about the Illuminati. Like Prodigy, he was credited as the first one to say the word Illuminati. That was back in him as well as Onyx, back in '95. Prodigy, he used the word Illuminati on the song called by Jay. And Onyx, they also use the word too. But this right here, there's so much predictive programming in this video, in this Goodie Mob video.
I agree. I've been talking about it a lot recently, this music video. I've been telling everybody they should watch it because, yeah, again.
I know you've been talking about it a lot, but if you put it at the 56-second mark, you'll see people outside the window with masks on. You know how everybody's wearing a mask now?
Huh.
It's right at the 56-second mark. You're going to see people with masks on. It's crazy.
Hold on.
It's crazy. You got to stop it right at the 56-second mark.
Well, it looks like... Hold on. I'm trying to see. Yeah, it is still on that on 56-second. Yeah, just like when you go to the grocery store now, this is how people look. So...
Exactly. And they were talking about that back in 95 when that came out. Now, look, check this out. Now, the word thug equals 56, too, okay? The word thug.
Okay.
Now, Slim Thug, who is this big fucking phony...
In Houston, right.
He was getting paid to tell people that he has coronavirus. He came out with the album Friday, and the name of the album's called Thug Life.
Huh.
Like, you know, like where Tupac started.
Sure.
So that's another 56, the word thug. And then right at 56 seconds in that video, in that Goodie Mob video, you see him with the mask on.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And now, Scarface, now, out of all the rappers, out of all time, nobody raps more about death than Scarface, Tupac, and Biggie. Like in the history of hip hop, Scarface tried to commit suicide several times as a kid. So, you know, according to his book, you know, that I read, it's called The Diary of a Madman. So, a lot of his songs dealt with death and tragedy and suicide, you know, and who's the perfect person to say that has coronavirus? You know what I mean? And what's so crazy about it is that they're both from the same city.
Well, and then the stories were 2 days apart because the Slim Thug from Houston, he came out with coronavirus the same day Houston went into lockdown, and then Scarface was 2 days later on March 26, 26/3, like 263, the 56th prime, and Scarface equals 56 like coronavirus. So just perfect rituals. And the day that Slim Thug came out, there was a whole bunch to it. But I remember that was a date with 31 numerology, and Houston's 31, the same day they went into lockdown. So again, I mean, that's where that date numerology factors into the Gematria decodes.
Right, and that's another 56. Scarface is 56.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so, yeah, I've been trying to call in, but it's just you've been crazy busy lately. I noticed, like you can't even get through the regular line anymore, like on the Wednesday night show.
Well, so many people are calling in now.
People finding out about this.
Well, the Kobe Bryant thing really woke a lot of people up to this, so yeah, that's the good news is more and more people are figuring it out, but we got to get way more people to figure it out. So I know I've been saying we need to start doing a radio show more than just one night a week because so many people are calling in.
Yeah, let me tell. I'll co-host with you, man. You know I'm down to ride with you.
All right, I appreciate that.
I want to let me tell you about this song real quick. Now, this song came out in '95, and this is what it's saying. These are just some of the lyrics. He said there ain't in this new world order, them experimenting in Atlanta, Georgia.
Which is, well, let's also think about that. Atlanta, Georgia.
Ain't knocking or asking.
Atlanta, Georgia. That's where the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is, which happens to equal 201, like Event 201 that simulated all this. Yeah, I know, man. That's why I've been saying people need to listen to this.
Literally, you're right. This is the most relevant song, and I'm thinking that they must have had help with some of these lyrics because this is the most relevant song of all time that predicts exactly what's going on. You can go through it word by word. Like, listen to this. He says, what's the other part? Hold on. Right here, he says, later on in the future, look it up. Where they say it, ain't no more Constitution. Ain't no more Constitution. That's exactly what's going on right now. Then he says, this should be my least worries. Got to deal with where my W-2s and 1099s. And what's going on right now? People are worried about where the W-2s are at and where the 1099s are at because we're coming up on the, it's tax time. So he's talking about, I'm worried about my W-2s and 1099s. This should be the least of my worries, right? And then, what else? Oh, you know what else they're trying to do? Make a curfew especially for me and you. The traces of the new world order.
Right.
Time is getting shorter. If we don't get prepared, people, it's going to be a slaughter.
That's the part that people really need to listen to.
Now, right here. No, now check out the next line.
Well, hold on, no, don't go ahead yet, because that's the part people really need to look at, because they're talking about Atlanta, Georgia, the Georgia Guidestones. That's why this song is so worrisome, because it's like, okay, so.
Right. I didn't even put that together. I know about the Georgia Guidestones, but I didn't even put that together with the fact that they're from Atlanta.
Right.
Now look at the next line. This is very important. Okay, my mind won't allow me to not be curious. My folks don't understand, so they don't take it serious. It's just like when I try to talk to my folks about Gematria, they don't take it serious. It's like the same. It's the same thing. You try to explain Gematria to these people, and they don't take it serious.
They're too comfortable, man. That's the whole thing, man. People are too comfortable right now. They don't see what's coming. And that's what I've been explaining this whole time I've been here. I've been saying, man, the people who did 9/11, that was one building. Wait until they do it to a whole nation. And, yeah, man, I mean, it's all written in stone, literally, in Alberton, Georgia. So Alberton's 44, Georgia's 44. The Guidestones are 19 feet, 3 inches tall. 193 is the 44th prime. Genocide's 44. Those Guidestones talk about getting rid of over 90% of the world's population. I mean, it remains to be seen if we'll ever live to see that day. But if the New World Order gang isn't overthrown, we might live to see that day. And that's why people need to wake up. Because just like this song says. That's why I've been telling everybody to go listen to this song and watch the music video, because the music video is giving you all sorts of stuff, too, if you just pay attention to the visuals, like the thing you caught with the mask. But, yeah, there's no way they wrote this song. This song was handed down to them by the...
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, there's no way they wrote this song. You're right. I mean, look at this part right here. This is the part right here. This is probably, like, the most important part of the song, probably. Or there are lots of parts. But look at this. Look what he says right here. He says, he says, after I lost my best friend Bean, like Kobe Bean Bryant. So Bean, after I lost my best friend Bean, I'm recognized as a king. So he said he lost Kobe as a tribute to the king, LeBron, right?
Well, and then also think about this whole thing right now. It's the coronavirus. Corona means crown, like the royal, like the elite. You know, Jesus is the King of Kings, and they're about to make it so people can't even go to church on Easter. There's just like so much stuff going on right now that people need to recognize. But yeah, that's a good catch. I hadn't even thought about that in the lyrics. That's a good one.
Yeah, I lost my best friend Bean. I'm recognized as a king. And then he says, I wonder if the gate was put up to keep crime out or to keep our ass in.
Well, look at what he says 2 lines after that. Because he says, now you're open to disease and colds.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the next thing. Now you're open to disease and ain't 16 years old because now there's teenagers supposedly dying of this.
Lock up folks in the hood. Just a couple lines later, it's just like that's why I've been telling people in recent weeks to go look at this song, because I was just like looking at this. I was like, okay, this song has never been more relevant. This might be the most relevant song ever written. So
it is. And then in the video, they go into the corner store and then they're just like buying chips and soda or whatever, and then they're paying with the computer chip that's in their hand. It's like a scanner. And then it reads your CIS, and that's how you pay for stuff. It's a scanner that's inside your body.
Right, because that's what it gets to in the end. To enforce the new system by rain, tag my skin with your computer chip, run your hand over the scanner to buy your dish now. So, again, that's the mark.
Yeah,
that's
no
the
for your fish. Right, you can't go outside no more, so you can't even go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Kiss the days of the old days, past ways gone. So, yeah. Mind blowing.
I remember when this song came out in '95, this song was like a big, huge smash. And then what's crazy about it is that MTV banned it. So I'm thinking, okay, wait. They got help, right? And now I'm thinking about this all these years later, right? And I knew they were right back then, though. But it's like, okay, well, if they got help writing this song, why would MTV ban it? You know, it's just like, that's weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, back then, MTV banned it because it was just too far ahead of its time or whatever. It was too controversial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. People really got to read these lyrics and watch the music video and just pay attention, because just like it said then, listen to me now, believe me later on. So here we are. It's later on. It's 25 years later. And speaking of 25, I wanted to make this point earlier. Check out this movie, In Time. I'm just talking to everybody here. In Time. The premise of the movie is that once you turn 25 years old, a timer shows up in your forearm. It's the future. And you start out with like 50 hours. And if you ever run out of time, you die. You pay for things. There's no currency in the world. It's just time. You pay for everything with time. You work for time. And you learn in the movie that there's a super rich class that on their arm they have like thousands of years time. They're all good. But all the poor people, they're just like, most of them don't even have a full day's time on. So they're just always trying to hustle to stay ahead. And, but anyway, the movie starts in Dayton, Ohio. And the premise is that when you turn 25, that's when your time starts. Again, time equals 25. Dayton equals 25. Death equals 25. That's when you can die, when you turn 25, because that's when you can run out of time. If you pay attention to this movie, and I'm not ruining the movie by telling you this one thing, but if you watch the movie, because it happens right in the beginning, the main character, that's the other thing in the movie, you don't age once you turn 25, you just stay 25 forever. So if you live 1,000 years past 25, you still look like you're 25, but his mom is 50, he's like 26 years old or something. At the end, at the very beginning of the movie, you see his mom die, and it sets up the entire story. But she's looking down at her time as her time's running out, because she's just like seconds away from what she needs to do to get more time, but she doesn't quite make it. But they show her look down, and she looks down, and she has like, I think it shows like first she has 21 seconds, and then it shows again, and she's like at 9.3 seconds. But it does that back to back when it shows the time, 21 and 9.3. And those are the Saturn numbers. Saturn's 93 and 21, and Saturn's the keeper of time, connected to death and judgment. So the last 2 times you see her time, you see those exact numbers, the Saturn numbers right before she dies. And the movie's just full of it. There's a part in the movie where somebody's trading their diamond earrings to get some more time, and then it shows their time on their arm. They're down to 58 seconds. Like, that's what the high cut of a diamond is, 58 facets. The movie's just full of all sorts of stuff. But again, it's just a good example of seeing, and you can do this really with every movie, but that movie, there's just so many different things they do in there where you're just like, wow, look at the way the Gematria tells you the story and why these numbers were chosen for this movie. So, and again, I'm just bringing up 25 because that song came out 25 years ago. And now it's 2020. Time is 20 and 25. Death is 20 and 25. That's what that song's about. The future, a bad time. Listen to me now, believe me later on. So,
yeah, that's amazing. You said that movie's called In Time?
Yeah, In Time. It actually, Justin Timberlake's the main star in the movie, but the movie's worth watching. So,
and you know what's another 93 extinction level event?
The Busta Rhymes album, Woo-Ha, got you all in check.
Yeah. You know, he was predicting all. He had a lot of predictive programming too with all the names of his albums. When disaster strikes, extinction level event. Just by the names, like you could tell he wasn't naming his albums.
Right. Yeah. All right, Jonathan. Jonathan, I got to get off here in 3 minutes, so I'm going to open up the phone for one last call in case we got a new person with a question. Okay. But you got my number, man. Hit me up. But yeah, I mean, we gotta get our people to wake up right now because I think we might have gotten too far along in this ongoing tyranny show. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'm down to do something. I wanna work Skype a little bit, but I'm willing to travel to come to you to meet. I'm willing because I'm here in Montgomery, so I'm trying to stay close to my daughter. But I can at the same time I'm willing to work and go wherever. You know, go to Washington if I need to go to Washington. But really, I want to work mostly Skype. But I'm flexible, you know. I don't want to have to be tied up to no other job. Like if we go meet in New York, we'll do that. You know, we'll talk about it though.
All right, appreciate it, Jonathan. All right, take care, man.
All right. Bye.
All right. I'm gonna call back this person in London because they're trying to get through to me on the Skype and they've been calling a bunch. And so let me call them up on Skype right now. And hold on, I'm having trouble with Skype. How do I get rid of this? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to call our London friend here.
Hey, Zach. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you? In London, because they're trying to get through to me on the Skype, and they've been calling a bunch. Can you mute your video?
Let me just do that. 2 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Is that better, Zach?
That's great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm a newbie here, so... Yeah, you mentioned just earlier about the Kobe thing. Obviously, it grabbed my attention. Just a couple of things. You may have covered a couple of things here on the Kobe. Just East helicopter call sign N72EX.
Right.
I sent you a couple of images through on Skype. If you put in the word N72EX into the calculator.
Okay, so this is actually a good... So N72EX?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got it up.
Have you got it in the calculator? Yeah.
I got it up. Yeah, it's there.
The 211. Let me bring up mine. The 47th prime.
Black Mamba's 211. The 47th prime. I see how there's the 47 in the reverse gematria. Yeah,
you got that. Just off the back of that, I don't know. Have you looked at his death certificate, Kobe?
I have not.
Yeah, just if you Google that, and you'll get a view of that. There's some amazing things in that. If you Google his death certificate, bring that up.
Okay, let me try it out. Kobe Bryant death certificate.
Yeah.
I just saw in those numbers, though, just how the numbers of time and death were in that sequence, because there was 20, 25, 47. Kobe Bryant death certificate.
Well, no, Now, if you put the, you know, the helicopter, if you put in the word, if you put N70, SEVENTY, EX, 72 in the words, it's going to blow your mind when you put that in.
Okay, I'm trying to make this death certificate bigger here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I got the death certificate up so we can read it. So what are we looking for on here?
Yeah, all right. I'll come back to that. If you put in the calendar, put in the words N70, SEVENTY, TWOEX. Put that in.
Oh, you're saying right. I see what you're saying. You're saying right outside. Hello? Oh, we're having some sort of technical difficulty. Okay, but okay. So again, he's saying 211. Black Mamba equals 211. Remember, Kobe died 211 days before. Now the value of N72EX, everything dropped by 9. Everything was plus 9 before. This was 52 instead of 43. This was 25 instead of 16. This was 47 instead of 38. This was 20 instead of 11. Again, this is technically considered more pure. I'll call him back in a moment. I want to finish making this point. So, and again, the person in New Jersey, I'll call you back too. But just realize that what's considered more pure is doing it this way. And this used to be Derek's default setting, and I think technically he should have left it this way, because if you read like a book like this one right here, or you can't, I forgot, the camera's off me now, but that Faith Javane book, it'll explain that, you know, like if numbers are in there, you shouldn't add them as part of your calculation. Now, that said, we have realized over the years that if numbers are included in this, the numbers definitely are relevant. So, Derek, okay, a number that plays a lot with the 49. When we were talking about the Kobe Bryant thing?
You're right after that, probably about 3-4 minutes ago. Your video is pretty much over right now. It was what it appears to us.
Well, yeah, there's some sort of technical glitch then. We were going to wrap it up right now anyway, so I will call New Jersey back and we'll call it a show. That's too bad, but thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it.
Hey, will you have a talk with me off the air pretty soon?
Yeah, I'll call you back.
All right.
All right, see you. Okay, I said I'd call New Jersey back. Sorry about the buffering, you guys. That's too bad. We're being sabotaged probably, but it's okay. It's been a good show up to this point.
Hello?
New Jersey, I'm calling you back. You called in a few times.
My bad. What's up, Zach? How you doing, bro?
Doing well.
Man, they trying to shut you down right now, man. You know what's going on, man. It's crazy out here.
Well, at least we got through most of the show before it happened, so.
Word, man. So, my thing is, right, so I've been doing breakdowns, right, because I'm a substitute teacher, so at work, I don't have nothing but time on my hands. So I'll be chilling at work, right? So I'm looking at, like, these little posters on the wall. There's a music class, you know what I'm saying, and it's a theater art class, and I saw the word boulevard, right? I'm like, once the Kobe thing happened, that's when I got turned on to you, man, and people, like, you know, been telling me about you, so I got turned on, right? So I'm looking at the word boulevard, right? And I'm like, all right, etymology. And I looked at it, and it said boule. I'm like, yo, does this have something to do with the boule? And I was going to ask you, do you think it has a lot, something to do with the boule, like boulevard?
I see what you're saying, because the word boule is in it. Yeah, that's interesting. So.
Yeah, man. So I was doing that, right? And also I did another breakdown with the whole, Jordan flu game when, you know, he dropped 38 points, and 38 is the death number, right? And
it's also the pandemic number. It's also the pandemic number, since now it factors into this whole pandemic and the NBA shutting down. But okay, yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, so I did the breakdown of that, the 38, and then I saw, I'm like, hold on, who did he play against, right? No one other than who? The Utah Jazz, right?
Right.
And I did that connection. I'm like, all right, Rudy Gobert played for the Utah Jazz, right? Boom. Then next year, I'm like, Jordan won his 6th championship against who again? The Utah Jazz. Then I'm like, all right, death. I still had the death number in my head. I'm like, all right, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant died at age 41 and he played his last game against the Utah Jazz, and death is for 38. Like, then he was buried in like Corona. I'm like, all this shit is just like all connected with each other, man. And then like one of my buddies, right, he told me he had purchased a Kobe Bryant jersey like the moment it happened or whatever. And ironically, I wanted to call you like a month or two ago to talk about this part. Ironically, right, they canceled all the Kobe Bryant. They postponed all the releases for the Kobe Bryant jersey until July 15th, I think, or June 15th, one of those days, July 15th. And I'm like, whose birthday is that? Damian Lillard's birthday is that exact same day and everything. So
right, right. And because his birthday is 15/7, like 157, like Kobe Bryant, who died on his 157th day of his age. Remember, it was Damian Lillard who lit up the scoreboard the day of the Kobe Bryant Remembrance game in L.A.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, and that's what I thought. I'm like, yo, and my prediction, I was trying to make a prediction to people. I was like, if it goes to plan, because these people, they know people are not that stupid, so they know people are on to certain things. So I think they always, in the beginning, they could always twist things up. You know what I'm saying? They could make it out like Damian Lillard, right? Like might be the front runner for MVP. So that's what I was gonna put. I'm like, the way he's performing, the way he's playing right now is out of this world right now. And it's like, is it because of the Kobe thing, or is it because they're trying to make him one of the face as well? But then I saw you doing more breakdowns about LeBron, and I'm like, all right, King James, like Cavalier, all that other stuff. I'm like, all right, it makes sense for LeBron to like rise up. And then today, I looked at the video of when you made the prediction about this last year, almost 2 years ago, when you made the prediction when LeBron got traded to the Lakers, and you said he won't win his first year, he'll lose his first year, then the next 3 years he'll win his championships. And I'm like, it's playing out like that right now. Like, if the NBA season were to continue right now, LeBron, they're definitely going to win the championship, without a doubt. And then so on and so forth and shit like that. So it's crazy, man.
I gotta say, in college basketball, we were really locked into Kansas with the men's, and they canceled the tournament, but then the NCAA gave Kansas a consolation prize, ranking them the #1 team of college basketball this year. I think they would have won the championship had they not canceled the whole thing. So
exactly, bro. And the guy that the guy before you called, he was talking about the Goodie Mob song. I never really heard that song. I'm gonna get into it. But here's another thing that I wanted to point out to you too. There's a couple songs that I listen to a lot. One is called "Nature of the Threat" by Raz Kaz. I don't know if you ever heard that one. He gives you a thorough breakdown about the true essence of like the nature of the threat of like the who's and stuff like that.
Sure.
And there's another song called "The Fourth Branch" by Immortal Technique. I don't know if you ever heard that song.
Okay, I know who Raz Kaz is, but I haven't heard that song, and I know who Immortal Technique is. What's the name of the Immortal Technique song?
The Fourth Branch.
About the media's propaganda. Okay.
Yeah. And then, right, I listen to like a lot of old school. I'm Wu-Tang Clan, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm from New Jersey, so I'm New York basically. So I listen to a lot of ODB, right? So I know for a fact, as dumb as his character was, how like belligerent he was and shit like that, he was really smart. He was a really smart dude, and that's what I noticed, right? So, all these rappers, they do a lot of allegory type of shit. Like, they speak in codes and everything because they know what's up. And pretty much the higher-ups tell them what to say sometimes. And ironically, I think it was an album before he died, or a few albums. I think it was 1998. There's an album called Nigga Please. I'm going to just say it. It's called Nigga Please. Like, Nigga Please. I was trying to do the breakdown of Nigga Please and what that is. And I was trying to like decode it, but I didn't know what numbers those associated with, because like it's 96, 51, 201. I mean, 201 I thought about, all right, then 201, but is this particular song called "I Can't Wait," right? And that album, "Oh Dirty Bastard," like, and he's rambling. You can literally, you can't really understand what he's saying, but like it's certain things he pointed out, talking about like babies, measles, moms, talking about all these diseases, and they're just pointing out certain things. And I'm like, yo, why is he saying this shit? Like, so I'm just like, yo, he knew what's up. Most of these people know what's up, obviously, because they join these type of things. And I'm just like, yo, people gotta listen to the songs. Like Tupac said, don't just nod your head to the beat, bro. Like, peep the game, and there's really game being ran out all of us. And it's crazy out here, man. And I just been like, I've been listening to you since the Kobe shit, man. It's crazy, bro. So I just wanted to like run that by you real quick too. Like, look at those things, man. Like, look into the Old Dirty Bastard album. Look into that. Look into the Raz Kaz song, "Nature portrayal of the threat. He decodes a lot of things. He gives people the actual history of the original people, all that stuff, like how they use us against, you know, to just take over everything, bro. It's crazy, man.
Sure,
You know?
and I'll say this about Old Dirty Bastard. A good example of seeing like the way things work in this world, it was on MTV. I've lost track of time. It might have been 20 years ago now, but it was Old Dirty Bastard and Method Man of the Wu-Tang Clan, and they were on MTV doing an interview, and Old Dirty Bastard was talking about all this real stuff going on in the world, conspiracies and stuff, and Method Man was sitting there, and he just kept saying, I'm not saying nothing. I ain't talking about this. And you look at Method Man. Method Man's still making music. He's in movies, TV shows. He's still alive. Old Dirty Bastard's dead. So everybody should go back and watch that interview right there to see the way the world works.
That is a significant interview. I saw that video. I saw that interview a few times. I'm like, yo, Old Dirty Bastard know what's up. Like, he's the quiet one. He's trying to dig deeper into certain shit. But, you know, Method Man is the other one. He's the sellout. He's basically looked at as a sellout because he's not really saying much. And it's like you sitting next to your own mans and you letting him just go down. You know, you just let him go down like that, man. And I was trying to, like yesterday, me and my boys were chilling with each other. So it's 4 of us. And 2 out of 3 of us, or 3 out of 4 of us believe, like, we actually, I put all my boys onto your videos and all of that. One of my other boys is actually going to become a member soon. He's like, I'm going to subscribe. So, boom. We chilling yesterday, and I'm just like, I asked my boy, I'm like, do you think it's a coincidence that Kobe Bryant just died out of nowhere? My bro was really, like, just ignorant to the fact that this all is really, like, written up. We telling him, like, yo, this is all written up by people. Then he was saying that the votes, that everybody vote count. I'm like, bro, you're 20, you're older than me, bro. I'm 25, you're 28. How the hell you going to sit here and tell me that, as a 20-year-old man, being black, of course, that your vote really matters, bro? And he's like, it matters and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, you sleep, bro. You a sleep sheep, bro. You cannot be this sleep in this world right now at this time. You can't be. You can't. It's just impossible, bro. And he ain't want to wake up, and it's just like, yo, come on, man. You see what's going on. I'm like, if Zach see what's going on, then you should see what's going on. That's what I told him. But he don't know who you are, though. That's why it was so funny, you know.
Sure. Well, I mean, but that's just like the lyrics in that Goodie Mob song too, you know, just like, you know, people aren't taking this serious, but they need to be. So we got to figure out how to make them see. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for calling in tonight.
No problem, bro. Thank you, man.
All right, you take care. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right.
Okay, you guys, I'm not going to take any more calls because I'm 20 minutes past when I was supposed to get off, but I do have to show you one more thing because I thought I was showing you earlier, but I realized that it wasn't popping up the way that the screen was set up. Whoops. So again, I was just talking about how the word free is 34 with the alphabetic order, and Freemasonry is 139, which is the 34th prime number. Freemasonry. Freemasonry back in the day, they were the builders. They were the only men that could really travel freely. They were allowed to travel freely because they had the skills to build these structures that were needed around the world. And remember, America at 139, the nation established by Freemasons. And America supposedly got free on 7-4 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, 74. So somebody's calling in. I want to take the call, but if I do, then I'm going to open up the floodgates. I'm sorry, man. I can't take the call. I do got to get off because my lady's going to kill me. I told her I'd be done at 7:30 and it's 7:50. So, we'll leave it there, you guys. We'll do round 2 next Monday. But between now and Monday, I'm going to go dig up the old Gematria School episodes and repost them on here so you can watch those too if you want more information. But next Tuesday, we'll really understand date numerology and master that. Because, again, you want these 2 pieces to come together. The Gematria and the date numerology. It's how you see through the scripting of the headlines every single day. So, thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight. Hope you appreciated the lesson. Sorry that the live stream got choppy there at the end. If you go back and watch it, it might be smooth once it re-uploads. And do realize it'll probably take an hour to process before it shows the whole video. But we'll leave it there. And be back for Gematria School next Monday night, same time. But between now and then, look for those other episodes to be uploaded on Patreon. All right, take care, all.